Hello, everyone. Good evening, and just some introductions. Tonight we are going to have a little discussion. Tonight we've got Mr. Gary Clark, also from C.M.W. We have Rick, as most people will know, who's supported us pretty much all the way along. And we have Dennis Morgan from the British Resistance Group, who's joined us tonight, and we're going to have a little chat about a few things. So good evening, everybody. If you can just say hello and sort of introduce yourself again.
Good evening. Good evening,
everybody. You should know me by now. Good evening, Dennis. Good to see you on here at last, and we've managed to speak.
Yeah, good evening, Gary.
Yeah. Good evening, Rick.
Evening, Garrett. You all right? Evening, everybody.
How you doing, bro? Yeah. So that's introduction, Java. You know, Nathan. Who don't?
Oh, I tend to not really stick my face in the public too much, to be honest. But right, yeah, we've had many questions over the last month or so. Many, to the point where it's overwhelming to actually answer this in one go. So tonight we're hopefully going to answer a lot of the questions on this live. We've got Dennis has got a few questions he's gathered from members of the public and other people. I'm sure we'll be able to answer a few of the ones that me and Gary got as well. Like tonight, for instance, where should we kick off? Let's say common law constables, because we've been asked that a lot lately, have we not, Gary?
Yeah.
To the point where
there's no such thing as a common law constable. Basically, what it is, it's they are police constables, and they are put in the role by the Crown to become a constable, and they obviously deal with common law. But if you go out and claim to be a common law constable, you are actually committing an offence because it's impersonation.
it is.
Oh, right.
Well, this is the thing, right? All constables, CON, all constables are actually take a test under common law. So their duty is to uphold the Queen's peace. As we see here, this is the Police Act of 1996. Okay, now we'll just take this as a quick Google and you'll find out. It says here quite clearly, I'll be doing the other one about the sheriffs in a minute. It says impersonation, etc. Any person with the intent to deceive impersonates a member of a police force or special constable, or makes any statement or does not act or does any act calculated falsely to suggest that he is such a member or a constable, shall be guilty of an offence and liable on summary conviction to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 6 months, or to a fine not exceeding level 5 on the standard scale, or both. 5 on the scale is very high, by the way. Any persons who, not being a constable, wears any article of police uniform in circumstances where it gives him an appearance so nearly resembling that of a member of the police force as to be calculated to deceive, shall be guilty of an offence and liable on summary conviction to a fine not exceeding level 3 on the standard scale. Part 3. Any person who, not being a member of a police force or special constable, has in his possession any article of police uniform shall, unless he proves that he obtained possession of that article lawfully and has possession of it for a lawful purpose, be guilty of an offence and liable on summary conviction to a fine not exceeding level 1 on the standard scale. Article of police uniform means any article of uniform or any distinctive badge or mark or document of identification usually issued to members of police forces or special constables, or anything having the appearance of such an article, badge, mark or document. It goes on F1 to say special constable means a special constable appointed for a police area. Clue there being appointed. And this is what a lot of people don't realise. That's section 90 of the Police Act of 1996. I think we've lost Dennis. What I just showed you there, that's section 90 of the Police Evidence Act. Sorry, the Police Act of 1996. So that clearly shows you that Her Majesty's Constabulary, the Royal Constabulary, every constable is appointed by the Crown. Okay, they are a Crown servant. You can't just nominate yourself to be this. It has to be an appointed position. That's why they take an attestation of oath of office, because you have to take an oath to uphold that oath of office. We can't just impersonate police constables. We're not allowed to. As you've just seen there, they've got legislation for it. That legislation, technically is common law based, because it's to do with fraud, it's impersonation, it's deception. So it is very valid. This is another reason why many people will find themselves in trouble, and this is why, again, you'll find that common law constables don't get you anywhere. In fact, it's more likely to get you into trouble. Like I said, that's a quick Google search. Okay, that was on Google. All you have to do is put in section 90, impersonate a police constable, and it will come up. So you've got the legislation there. It is common law based legislation because it's based on deception, which is within our common law. It doesn't take 5 minutes to read it and understand that you shouldn't be impersonating or having people believe that you have any rank of that of a constable or anything for that matter. This is all part of what constitutes the crime. I think we've got
sorry about that.
Right? And this is what constitutes the crime. We have an alternative to the constabulary. I'm not going to talk about that tonight because that's a whole new show. But we cannot, as people, unless we are basically appointed by the Crown, be known or have ourselves known as any form of constable, or even that of a lower office, and that's a special constable. But all oaths are based on common law and upholding the Queen's peace. It's a constitutional oath.
But what we've got to realise is, people, and I've said this before, is that we have actually got our own powers. It's called Section 3 of the Criminal Act.
Yep,
and if you see a crime being committed, you can actually use your powers of arrest, your citizen's arrest, on that anyway. So you don't need, if you see a crime going on, you don't need to say, I'm, a common law constable. You just use your powers as citizen's arrest under Section 3. It's just as good, and you hold them there till the police come and then pass them over. Just as good.
Well, this is the thing. We do have people using PACE at the moment. That's mainly sort of like the pedo hunters and stuff like that. They're using Section 24A of PACE. It's the Police and Crime and Evidence Act, I believe. That's technically not ours. That's for the Royal Constabulary to use. But it's like Gary says, we have actually all got a constitutional duty and a common law duty to keep the Queen's peace and uphold our laws. And that's our laws, not the UN's, not the EU's, our laws. And this is what we've got to get to grips with. Many people sit there and say that about citizen's arrest. Citizen's arrest is basically you've got to understand, is to highlight a crime. You are not judge, jury, and executioner. All you do is you have to have proof that a crime is being committed or is about to be committed or is in the process of being committed before you make that arrest. There's a number of other assessments you have to make before you undertake that arrest. It is true, yes, you can. I mean, under Section 3, the chance of being countersued for assault is not there. That is true, because your belief. But again, this comes down to actus reus and mens rea, your physical action and your mental intent on your actions, what you did. So it's not just a case of just arresting someone. You can, in the spur of the moment, yes. But if you're going to do what most people do, it's like when we went to the Fabian Society. We had the crimes all signed, sealed, delivered. We had what we call just reasons. We had lawful just reasons to do what we did. There's a lot more to it, but you'll have some constables, even our thing, said that they do lawful arrests, not citizen's arrest. Well, citizen's arrest is actually a very, very lawful arrest because it's based on our constitutional and common law. It is a duty under the law to do so. Otherwise, you're actually complicit in the crime if you do not then do anything to stop it. So a citizen's arrest is just as much as a lawful arrest as it is the police's. In fact, actually, technically speaking, there's been a lot of argument because our rights under Section 3 of the Criminal Law Act of 1967 are actually higher than that of the Army and the police force, because they took a lesser oath of office to uphold the law because they get paid for it, rather than their constitutional duty.
Right.
So there is a clear distinction. There is a clear distinction. But citizen's arrest is applicable to all of us because we all have to uphold the law.
Right.
So
Right.
Well,
another question I got for you is: what's the difference between lawful rebellion and dissent?
right, well, lawful rebellion is an action. Okay, the difference is we're going to be talking now is we're talking about opinion and action. Dissent is an opinion. So if you dissent to something, you have an opinion contrary to something. Okay, so but there is a maxim we have in our law. It's both in commerce law and our common law, and with any law, it's a maxim. Opinion does not give you grounds to act in law. So just because you dissent to something doesn't mean you get to go and act on it, because it's an opinion. You have an opinion. Without proof and proof of claim, you have no reason to act on it because in law it doesn't give you. Whereas lawful rebellion is the physical action. So when you're in lawful rebellion, for instance, like you have, Dennis, you've completed your 61 declaration and you go through the process. Once you've done that, your actions then will be that of rebellion, not dissent. So anybody that's actually completed,
Right.
even just completing your Article 61 form, you go out of the realms of dissent into rebellion because you are no longer thinking something or have an opinion about something. You are physically acted upon it, which is rebellion. That's
Right.
why you'll
Okay.
find that's why you'll find a lot of things that mention dissent are not really looked at or upheld because it's an opinion. Whereas most things, I mean, it says even in the Human Rights Declaration in 1998, in the preamble, it mentions rebellion. We have the right to rebellion, not dissent, because that we can all have an opinion. That's protected as well. But the right to rebellion against tyranny is actually protected in not only our domestic laws but international law as well.
Okay. Another question I've been asked. Everyone's getting confused with the common law court and Article 61.
Right. Well, the common law court, because I used to speak to John Smith quite a lot. I thought he was a right man when I first sort of got spoken to him. But and I did back the common law court because I did believe that if our courts are completely treasonous, then we should have a remedy apart from that. But the problem is, Gary will vouch for me on this as well, where we have actually dedicated quite a number of years to actually going into court and addressing this. We have found that they have actually upheld common law and they do actually uphold the Constitution, even though sometimes they try and subvert it or ignore it. They're not denying it and it's not there. They're just trying to use a legal manoeuvre to try and get around it. So we can't at the moment say that our courts are completely tyrannous and unlawful because it is actually our duty to go into these courts and uphold our laws. It's not their duty to uphold them for us. Only we can uphold our rights. So until everybody goes into court and upholds common law and Constitution, they can sort of get away with what they're doing. They're not actually acting unlawful because you're not creating your jurisdiction when you go into court, so therefore they don't have to uphold it. One thing we did find when I've done my research that lot with the common law courts is it's the manner in which it's done. A jury has to be an unbiased jury. So what you can't do is get, say, 12 to 17 of your Facebook mates hold a court and then find someone guilty because it's what's classed in law is it's basically it's a conflict of interest due to a bias opinion or bias stance. So basically, in a nutshell, then people go into these common law courts, they're going with an impression of who's being tried, and they're going to find them guilty. It's unfair because they're going to find them guilty. They're not going on facts or law. They're going on, well, I think this person is guilty, so they're guilty. Which a lot of it, if it was to be moved into a court, would actually be thrown out on that basis. And this is a problem. Common law courts have to learn a lot more and they have to be a lot more lawful. You can't just hold them anyway. It actually states, I've actually got the common law court booklets and stuff like that, but it actually clearly states, even at an international level, that they have to be done with certain facilities in a certain way. And I've witnessed one or two of them, and they're not done in that way. It's not just that. The common law court itself at the moment is asking people to re-register things, i.e. your birth certificate. You don't own your birth certificate. It's actually Crown copyrighted. So that's why you can get into a lot of trouble for either using your birth certificate or destroying it or defacing it and stuff like that, because it's actually Crown copyrighted. So we don't own it. It's part of a Crown trust. So you can't re-register, because register, a legal definition of register is to transfer ownership. So you, not owning your Crown trust, cannot transfer ownership of that to the common law court. That's fraud. So they're only committing fraud to getting you to do it. The same as with your driving license. Again, that is a Crown contract. You have a contract with the Crown, which basically applies to the road traffic laws and everything like that. You create a contract that you would abide by these rules. So you have to deal with a contract before you can deal with the breaches. Also, common law court, they're trying to get people to register Article 61. Now, this is a massive problem because you can't do that. The only people that can take charge, and listen to the wording, the only people that can take charge of your standing under 61 is the barons, because they are constitutionally obliged to be our legal advisors. That's why we always do it, the C.M.W do it in the way we're doing it, because we do it by law. You can't re-register that because your 61 declaration, your affidavit of truth, and your claim of right are your personal property. You cannot transfer ownership of that to somebody else. You can transfer your allegiance and diffidatio through doing that process, but you cannot transfer the documents or your abilities or even the actions you do underneath that. So again, you're registering something that you are not legally or lawfully allowed to register.
Right, okay. There is another question I've been asked as well by a lot of people, and that's why is there so many people explaining and teaching common law in different ways?
This is something. Do you want to jump in on this one, Gary, or shall I do
it? Basically, with that, it's interpretation, I would say. But the thing is, with me and Nathan, we've never wavered, Dennis, from what it says. We basically do it to the letter. We don't put our own opinions on anything. We don't add anything or take anything off. We do it exactly as it says in the Magna Carta. We've never, ever, and that's why we're saying this is where a bit of like sometimes you can get where this is where lawful dissent will creep in, where they'll teach it, but they've got their own opinion on it. But we don't do that. When you come to us, it's as it states in the Magna Carta, no more, no less. That's exactly what it says on the tin. We don't do it any other way. That's why we've never been in any trouble.
Yep, I'll concur on that lot. I think that is a lot of the problem. I mean, me and Gary, we've arrested 5 MPs. We went up to Scotland Yard. We've done quite a few things, and we've never been put in prison. Even though there was a judgment against me for corona, it seems to have disappeared because we've done everything lawfully. A lot of people do, it's like Gary says, a lot of it is interpretation, because a lot of people think because we're dealing with Old English that there's a different interpretation. There's not really. Grammar does come into it, it really does. But the main difference is like Gary says, it's interpretation. Many people interpret things how they want to. So it's like, for instance, it's like with my research. When I do research, I don't set out to prove myself right. I set out to prove myself wrong, because it doesn't matter what I'm left with. Everything I'm left with that I can't disprove has to be the truth. This is what a lot of people don't realise, and they don't do. A lot of people, it's like, for instance, lawful dissent. They got a group of people to go. I believe they split up and then got back together. But there's a group of people who actually tried under Article 61, taking, I think it was Edinburgh Castle. Now, for someone who's the head of a constitutional and supposedly common law movement, I'd expect them to understand that Scotland never had Article 61. Yes, it's true. Scottish barons and Scottish nobles did help out in 61, but that was only lending forces, and mainly their involvement was supplies, basically. And that was only because through family ties and stuff like that. Scotland never had Article 61. So to then go and try and take a castle would be unlawful. It'd be technically speaking sedition and treason. You'd think somebody who headed a movement would know that. But this is where we get a lot of things. It's like people storming libraries and taking libraries. Now, all you have to do is read Article 61. I'll put it out again on my page, and we'll do another show on it. But Article 61, the clause Article 61 in the Magna Carta 1215 is written differently to that of every other clause in Magna Carta. And the reason why this is done is so that at the time of whenever lawful rebellion is actually upheld, and we do need to start doing this, there would be an appointed person who would go to every town, and they would gather people around and they would read out Article 61. Now, it's written in layman's English, so layman's terms. So it's written so we can all understand it. For instance, all those who are trying to take public buildings like libraries and stuff like that, if you actually bothered to read Article 61, you'd see it states quite clearly that we only have jurisdiction to take royal buildings. Now, this is buildings owned by the Queen. This is not public libraries. These are not public town halls or anything like that. So
Well,
anybody that's saying I took a town hall or I took a library, they're lying, because the law does not allow us to do that. All we can do is
basically,
distress and distrain Parliament and the Crown.
yeah. If you're going to do that, you're actually hurting yourself, because you're not distraining Parliament or the Queen anymore. You're distraining yourselves, because you're stealing and you're taking over public buildings, which is yourselves. So you're just damaging yourselves by doing that.
It's actually classed as domestic terrorism.
Yeah.
Right. Oh.
See, one thing I've noticed.
Sorry, Rick.
One thing I've noticed over the period of time is there's lots of people trying to do the same thing, but they're all doing it in different ways and whatever.
Yeah.
But there's often a financial reason why they're doing what they're doing. This common law, the what do you call it, the constable thing, they was all paying to train to do that, weren't they? Do you know what I mean? So people have got to look at it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This is the thing. I mean, C.M.W have been doing everything they've been doing for the whole time. They've been doing it for free. That's the massive change, you know, the difference in my eyes. Every single other arm and leg around it seems to be a financial reason why they choose to do what they do. And when you do ask them about anything, they either have no answers, or the answers that they do give you don't hold their own water. So to me, people do have to set these things out. You know, you and Gary will. If somebody says, I don't understand this or I don't understand that, you go into detail until they do know exactly what you're on about. You know, and then it becomes that each one teaches.
But this is the thing, everyone learns in different ways. So at C.M.W, we try and cater for all the different ways people learn, whether it be visually, audibly, writing. I mean, so we try and do it as many. And like Rick says, we will sit down for as long as it takes, and we'll find one way where you will understand it, because it is easy to understand, but you've just got to be taught it in the right way. This is a problem.
Yeah. Right. I mean, a lot of people like now with these libraries, they're getting they think you can just get to the library, and because somebody's there dressed as a woman, you can arrest them for this, that, and the other, with no proof of any crime being committed. You can't just do that. Even under common law, you can't just go and say, this man's dressed as a woman and I don't like it, I want him arrested. You've got to have a reason. He's got to be doing something wrong to be arrested. It's not because we don't want these people to be taken out that building, but you've got to have a good reason. You've got to have a reason, and that just because she's dressed as a woman isn't a good enough reason.
No, you have to prove a crime, and you can't just go and accuse somebody of something. You have to have proof of your claim. So, for instance, I mean, saying that, there was a group in America who got evidence of a drag queen singing a song. I think it was on YouTube, done his own song, and he was talking about grooming young children. A couple of months later, apparently he was in a school or a library or something, with his legs wide open, showing everyone everything, and he was reading stories to kids. Now there is probable cause. You've got evidence of him stating in his own. You've got evidence of him stating in his own words his intention is to groom children, and then he's in an area of his own volition, and the backing, the co-conspirators who actually booked him to actually help him in his agenda. So that way you would have what you call due process and just reason. But you can't just go and do something because you don't like it. And this again comes back to dissent. Dissent is an opinion about something. You're perfectly entitled to it, and you're perfectly entitled to voice it. But to act on it is something different.
Yeah, and we all know it's probably it is morally wrong to take 2- and 3-year-old children to watch a drag queen read books and that. It is morally wrong, and it shouldn't be allowed. But that's down to educating the parents, basically, rather than the children.
Well, that's exactly true. I mean, there is a massive movement now, and this is what people have got to realise. It's like most transgenders are not the same. There is a massive movement of transgender men, drag queen men, who are actually going against this narrative because they themselves say there is. I mean, all it's doing is hurting them. There's no reason for it, It's not justified, and they say themselves, "Why would you want to do this to your children?" And this is trans men, this is drag queens who have acts of their own, who are coming out and speaking out about this because they understand it is wrong in the way it's being done. Not all, and they're trying to say not all of them are like it. So not all trans men and not all drag queens want to come and speak to your children. They just don't. And if we don't attack them all, they're going to help us back this and help us get rid of the few that really do want to start basically grooming our children. But you've got to understand, it's like dissent does not give you the grounds to act. So like Gary says, it's like it may be morally apprehensive, but then again, like me and Gary said, if these truly are people who like to dress as women, then why can't they go dress like the little house on a prairie and read a nice story to the children? There's nothing wrong with that. We have these people in our society. Why do they have to dress in suspenders and provocative clothing? Again, that would be indecent exposure of some sort, wouldn't it? Because your intent would be to be provocative in a situation where you wouldn't necessarily be lawfully allowed to. This is what people got to think. Get it right and it'll work. It's just many people, it's like with the whole thing about talking about common law and teaching common law. Many people watch a few YouTube lives or gather a few snippets or read a bit of a book and that lot, and they run off with their own interpretation and going, yes, it means that. They don't do the research on Hansard and all the rest to say, is this still lawful? Why was this enacted in the first place? What it's used for? What's the case law? And this is what you have to do if you've got to do something major. But to teach people common law in the way most people are, it's down to their own opinion. It's not actual fact. I mean, me and Gary have for a number of years put out the very sources you need, i.e. the Malmontine Laws, the Bill of Rights, the Magna Carta, the Carta de Foresta, the Coronation Oath. I mean, these are all the sources.
Well, that's the reason.
So go on, Dennis.
Go on, Rick.
No, go on, Dennis.
Well, that's the reason our group has got involved with you and Gary. Yeah, we've come across a lot of people that have been trying to charge us money. Yeah, and we found that C.M.W didn't. Yeah, they supplied us with packs and everything. Yeah, and you know, like a few of us are have signed up, and we're hoping to get some more people on board with all of this.
Brilliant.
Well,
now I can be back in 5 minutes.
The bloody house, the feeding your house, and the
go on, mate.
See, the thing is, all people have to do is look back to the Carn event. The names on that, some of them weren't even relevant at the time. Some people hadn't heard of them, but they've heard of them now because they're very relevant. You know, if,
well, look at Kate Green. No one knew what she was involved with and what she was doing at the time, but they do now.
This is it. Everything's become more relevant now. You know, C.M.W, as far as I can see, that's been the problem. It's been, you've researched that much, you can see what's coming before it becomes visible, and people don't get onto it quick enough. If enough people would have backed batches on that, you know, those people wouldn't be relevant now. You know, they would be pushed aside. You know, they would be dealt with accordingly. But we are where we are right now. You know, to me, it's one of them. Look at what happened. Look at the names that was read out, the charges, whatever. That was an active crime number for that. Was it a 3-year period or something? If you had done anything,
it can still be made active. It's just basically they shelved it after 3 years because it was inactive, because it wasn't in the public.
But you think doing what you did in front of, you think doing what you did in front of all that media, that went worldwide. Do you know what I mean? If you would have done anything incorrect, every single person there would have been done by now. But yet you've not. Yeah. So in my eyes, you've done everything correct. We just needed public support, and it just wasn't there.
Exactly. I mean,
well, that's the thing that.
God,
well, that's the thing that we want to do. We want to try and unite groups. We want to try and get as many people on board with C.M.W as well. And we're very grateful to the knowledge and that you've actually given us. Because we felt a bit of a loss that nobody was really doing anything about it until we come across you guys.
I can understand that. I mean, I've been around so many groups for such a long time. Any avenue that's worth exploring, we've explored. you know, and C.M.W have been consistent throughout every single thing. They've spotted things, even when it's controversial to, you know, what's being pushed or whatever. Everyone wants to get behind something, and if it's controversial but it's the truth, it's been put out regardless, and then proven to be the case every time. So for me, C.M.W has been consistently pushing the truth, the facts, and supplying the evidence, the free solutions. And to me, that's why a lot of people that could get on it, that have got the big names, the big numbers, the platforms, they won't get on it because there's no money in it to be made for them. That's,
there's no money and there's no fame because we all work together. So there'll be no one leading the charge.
Yeah, that's the thing with these big names. I feel that these big names are creating a division in the movement. Yeah, they you know, like we come across ordinary people every day. Like me myself, I'm an ordinary person. Yeah, and you know, I do ordinary things and that. And you know, all these big names, the left must love them. Yeah, because that they're actually destroying the movement from within. It's like they're imploding.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, and it's got to stop all of this where they're saying, oh, this person's a shill or this person's a graft, this person's that, this person's that. You know, it's all got to stop. Yeah, it's time that they should all come together and unite. Yeah, because if they don't, yeah, they're never going to come to anything. Yeah, this whole movement's just a joke.
Well, this is the problem with shills and stuff. I mean, they do have to be called out because, unfortunately, it's like you said, Dennis. Many times, what happens is we have people that go down a garden path that's not really viable and stuff like that, and then it takes 2-3 years. Okay, cheers. Then it takes people down a garden path, and nothing's done for 2 years. It's a distraction. So a lot of these people do need to be called out. But it's like you said, Dennis. It needs to be done in a proper way. So we don't just go, well, here's a shill. Have evidence of it. Before you call these people out, make sure you've got evidence that you can produce, that people can see it for themselves and let people make their own decisions. Because we can't just sit back and allow people just to keep sending people down the garden path or teaching people the wrong things. But it has to be done properly. It can't just be a case of calling it, because it used to be, Rick, you'll remember this, 4 or 5 years ago now, there was a massive thing that if you just called somebody a Mason or GCHQ or something like that, then people go, oh, I'm going to block him then. You need the proof. You need the proof. If you've got the proof, then your proof will speak for itself, and then these people can be put to a side by the people in general. But this whole thing of just calling out your competition because it thinks it's going to give you a heads up, I mean, that's why it happened to me. Look at Lawful Dissent under Jackie Phoenix. The Canadian group put my picture up and pinned it to the top of the group saying that I'm a shill, I'm a spy, and I report patriots. Now that was done because they didn't want people listening to me. They wanted people listening to her and David Robinson. And now it's things like that we do need to call out because that was shameful. That was a lie, the same as it's been said that apparently I'm meant to have run from a debate from Jackie Phoenix, and I'm not. Rick, you on here? Have you seen me run from any debate?
Never, ever. I've seen many people run from you, but never the other way around now. No. I mean, every single group that has been talking, pushing something, we've always said, right, okay, let's have an open discussion about it, and then we can introduce the facts and the evidence so we can all make our own opinion based on the facts and the evidence, nobody's opinion. But yet, most of these groups will run for the hills. When you say that to me, when anybody runs away from that, you've literally already got your answer. You know, if you're still sticking around them at that point, you've got to ask yourself why. You know, anyone that won't have an open discussion with the facts and the evidence provided, you know, that's a win-win situation for anybody taking part, anybody listening, regardless, isn't it? You know.
I've always said from the beginning, if what you're stating, if what you're trying to produce or you're providing stands up, then it will stand up to any testimony. So there's no reason why you shouldn't bring it to the table. I mean, my point's always been this. It's like, as far as I know, Jackie Phoenix has been to court a couple of times in Canada and now up threatening the judges and the clerks and that lot with their lives. I'm not saying she's never won a case. I find it very hard that people believe that I would go up against the High Court of Appeal, multiple Crown Courts, multiple magistrates' courts up and down the country, and then put across the Constitution and common law, and do quite bloody well, if I do say so myself. But yet I wouldn't debate somebody from a different country who's claiming to know this stuff but doesn't know that Scotland doesn't have 61. I find that very hard to believe that people believe it. But again, this is the problem. Like I said, it's like me and Gary have just stuck to the letter of the word. So it's not us that you're attacking, really. It's our ancestors and everything that's been done.
Yeah.
So that's basically.
To me, it's one of two things. It's either somebody with the right intention, but they've only got a little bit of the knowledge, plus they want a bit, or it's the other side of things where they're just doing it because they want to make money. They don't care that it won't work because they only need a short space of time with people investing into nonsense. There's never a good reason for it. Let's say
Nathan and Gary have never asked us for anything. We asked them for advice and all of that. Yeah, but we don't, like a few of our members have had problems. Yeah, but we don't. Yeah, we've never been asked for anything, and whenever we've needed paperwork or anything, they've always managed to sort it out. And we either get it downloaded on PDF or they send it to us through the post.
I've personally sent so many people to C.M.W that have got issues, problems, could be all sorts, and they've always been given a free remedy. And some of them, Nathan's been on the phone to people at 3 o'clock in the morning because they're going to get a knock the next door and whatever, and he's always resolved everything for everybody. It's never cost anybody a penny, never.
Yeah, I know. That's what I like about these guys. You know what I mean? Like, there's been others that have tried to charge us money, and
I mean, take Rick for instance, Dennis. I mean, I'm sure Rick won't mind us because he said it publicly, but Rick has some problems, certain bits. So he wanted to do Article 61, so I talked him through the whole thing, and Rick can explain to himself. It does work. He's used it.
Yeah, he does. I've actually used it myself, Nathan, with advice that you give me.
100%, Nate.
Yeah, it's it's just been such a big help. Yeah, and we've got other members of our groups with problems, and I know that they're going to you for help, and I know that you're going to help them, and we understand you're a very busy person.
Yes, that is true. It is very hard. This is why we are sort of thinking about getting some more people involved in the admin side of it, because it's getting very hard now. It's like I get thousands of messages a day. I'm juggling multiple cases at the moment, trying to help multiple other people. Like I said, we don't get paid for this. We are not professionals. So we don't get a wage. We're not sort of got a invested thing. The only thing we want to do is educate people, because if we all get educated on our rights, our laws, and we all start upholding them, we can stop them doing what they're doing. And that's what we need to do.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
But this is what I do beg of people, just to understand this. I'm not a barrister. I'm not a judge. I'm just a man who spent many years reading and actually got into court and used this stuff. But there's only one of me and one of Gary. There is other constitutionalists and common law people around that do them, but we are very much in the minority. There's a handful of us who actually really do know what we're doing, to the point where we'll go into a court and do it. Many will say it. I mean, Dennis, you know of experience of this, where people have said they're going to do something, and then when it comes to the crunch, they don't do it. They just bow out.
Yeah.
See what people just to add to what we were saying before about whether to kind of confront people that are saying and doing things. Certain things can escalate to the point where the veterans are being used in a treasonous plot and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And it's all, it could have all been avoided. Embarrassing across the board, I'm sure, for a lot of people. But if it weren't for C.M.W stepping in, who else would have? Because everyone else seems to be staying silent. It was busy.
Yeah, well, me and Nathan, we actually took part in a sponsored walk recently to help raise money for veterans.
Right, brilliant.
Yeah, and it was with that young lad, weren't it, Alex?
Yeah, little Alex.
Yeah. And
this is
you know, like our veterans are being treated absolutely terribly.
yeah,
Absolutely
yeah.
terribly. There's, you know, like we're hoping to try and arrange something down here in Essex. Yeah,
That's
and
what's needed. Yeah,
we was hoping Nathan and that could lend their support to it and all of that as well.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
This is the thing. I mean, the veterans have been pulled from pillar to post. You know, if you look across the movement over the last 10 years, they've been pulled from pillar to post. Everybody would want them, you
yeah,
know, in their group. You know, to me, if you've got the veterans on board, you will get Joe Public on board. It's you looked at very different, aren't you? So to me, it's
yeah.
one of
But
them. They've been
there's a lot of veterans
used at
with
the
a lot of
time.
problems. You know, like
Yeah, yeah,
we've met some at the PTSD camp,
yeah,
and
yeah,
some of them are just so fucked up, but yet they're the nicest people you could ever meet.
Yeah.
yeah.
Often that is the truth. Often it is that some of the nicest people just get screwed up and then they don't get the help and then it just
Yeah,
makes things worse. And their cries for help usually look to most people as them being horrible or violent or saying that when actually they're just crying out for help.
yeah. Well, the PTSD camp we found that they actually do help them quite a lot. You know what I mean? They help them into employment. They help them get housing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's all of these people that are slagging it off. You know what I mean? But we've actually been there and seen it.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good they've done. I mean, I've heard a lot of the
Yeah,
bad stories, but I don't technically really listen to most of the bad stories. Like I said, without proof, show me proof, then
exactly.
I'll
That's why we went there to see it for ourselves.
Well, Camp PTSD have asked me and Gary if we'll go up there for a talk at some point, so we'll probably be doing that as well.
Well, if you want to do that, if you can make it to London, Nath, yeah, we can pick you up on the way.
Yeah, that'd be blinding. Yeah, we'll sort that out. Right.
Yeah.
We can come back to this. I just want to get this last little bit done thing about the thing because I want to now talk about because people going on about where's the common law sheriffs. Okay, so I'm going to show you another bit of legislation that is common law based, and there's a reason for this. Bear with me. Because obviously C.M.W, we like to show proof as well as of our standing, so you'll be able to see it for yourself. Again, pretty much just a search of Google or even the government's own website does it. Let's see if it's worked. Right, there you go. Right, what you're looking at now is the Crime and Courts Act of 2015, not to be mistaken with the Criminal Courts Act, Justice and Courts Act of 2015. This relies solely, this is the kind of other side of Section 90 with a police constable. It says here, impersonation of designated officer. So a designated officer of the courts, okay, or any officer, because this is what people don't realise. A clerk is an officer of the court. It's an oath of office. So here we go again. So when you're talking about common law sheriffs, you can actually be done for impersonating them as well. A person commits an offence if, with intent to deceive, the person impersonates a designated officer. The person makes any statement or does any act calculated falsely to suggest that the person is a designated officer, or the person makes any statement or does any act calculated falsely to suggest that the person has powers as a designated officer that exceed the powers the person actually has. Now, I'm not being funny. I'm going to make a little comparison here. This is what bailiffs are not doing in a lot of their actions. They're not actually appointed by the court, they're appointed because they're a private company. So the actual bailiff doesn't actually have the authority of the court. A person is guilty of an offence under this paragraph is liable on some conviction to either or both of the following: 51 weeks on conviction in England and Wales, 12 months on conviction in Scotland, 16 months on conviction in Northern Ireland. A fine not exceeding level 5 on the standard scale, which again is quite high, we're talking thousands of pounds. So there you go. So you've just now seen both bits of legislation, okay, that purport to pretty much you impersonating either a police constable or any office. So i.e. like a court official or anything like that. This is all protected by law because it's all to do with deception and fraud. So you can't go to somebody's house and say, I am a High Court sheriff, I'm going to seize your goods, because that's a crime. You can't go out and say, I'm a common law constable, because these are all appointed by the Crown. So unless all these groups that are trying to do all this, unless you're going to openly admit now that you're working with the Crown and you intend to get people to be inducted by the Crown into these things, then you are pretty much creating all these crimes. And I need to say this because a lot of people don't get this. If you've joined a group that are pushing common law constables and that are charging £25 to train people to be a common law constable, who are then going to go out and act as a common law constable, you're all complicit in that crime. Because you should all know, once you're notified, and if you've watched this, you're now notified, that it's a crime. So if you allow it to go on, you are now just as guilty as they are. So the whole group can be prosecuted, not just a couple of people who put the uniform on. This is what people have got to realise. This is common law. Common law is fairly basic in its essence. Half the problem we have is we've got a lot of legal jargon that's been cemented around common law because they tried to change our system back in, well, they did change our system back in 1953. And since then, the wording has changed. That's why a lot of my books are old up to new, because I've actually studied the change in the wording, and it is just wording. The essence is still there. But this is where people have got to understand. You can't, and this is why I think it's like you said, Dennis, we get a lot of different people sort of stating common law in different ways. It's like common law constables. At no point will you find anything in law that states that you can be a common law constable.
To me, every time somebody does something that's like doesn't work, or it's just embarrassing or whatever, and it makes that whole element look like it's not worth, not worth whatever.
So
if you do it right, to me that's the thing. If you do it right, you don't get bothered, you don't get done. There is no charges. It's like, wouldn't we rather learn and do it the right way rather than keep doing it the wrong way? It's embarrassing, surely.
It's like you mentioned earlier, Rick, about the Fabian arrest. Now, there was 8 of us. So, I mean, it's like, this is not including Sean Morris or Graham Moore and that lot. They all stayed away from it and let us do it. So please don't keep thinking that they were part of it, because they wasn't. They stayed well away from it in case they got arrested. They didn't have the backbone to follow through. But when we went to the Fabian Society, there was a reason why we bought tickets, because the fact that what it was the Quaker building. And now the Quaker building is a private building. Okay, it's not owned by the Crown. And it's not a public building; it's privately owned by the Quakers. So we didn't have, technically speaking, well, it's not. We would basically, to get away with doing a trespass, because we've done what you call a lawful trespass. Even though trespass is a civil matter, it's not a lawful matter. But to be on them premises to do that arrest, because we had to wait until Sadiq Khan actually come up to speak, so we knew he was there and stuff like that. We couldn't just do it and start running around the building. We bought tickets, and when we bought tickets, through invite, through an email, we was then legally and lawfully allowed to be on that premises. Then our actions, because we was legally and lawfully on them premises correctly, then was not contrary to law in any kind of way, whether that be civil or criminal. We then arrested them under Section 3 of the Criminal Law Act of 1967, which is a constitutional and common law based act. It's because we have the power to arrest, the citizen's arrest. We did it right, we did it correctly. And this is the thing, we didn't just storm into a building mob-handed. We was all polite. We was actually, a lot of people have actually said who've seen the video, we was considering we was meant to be the right wing and the troublemakers. We was a lot better behaved than the actual audience in the Fabian Society, who are meant to be, by the way, the respected members of our society. So if you watch the video, you'll see how they act and what they're shouting out, and you'll see how we act, and you'll see the two sides of it. But we done it correctly, we done it lawfully. That's why we arrested, and we had evidence of crimes proven against Sadiq Khan and Keir Starmer. I'm just going to name them two for now. Sadiq Khan is the main solicitor who helped get all of the 9/11 bombers off, most of the illegal immigrants, anything like that, anything to do with jihad or anything like that. This man has got these people off, or he's got them a cushy deal. He's a very good solicitor, and he is a very good solicitor. Sadiq Keir Starmer. Solicitor, I think he's a barrister as well. He's also been the head of the Department of Public Prosecutions and CPS. Now, there's a man that has had every single office that there is possible. Now, it's like Rick said earlier, if we had put a foot wrong, if we had made a step wrong in our paperwork, them two people alone should have been able to destroy our paperwork, but they didn't.
Right.
Police backed our charges. They actually backed it and put it to CPS. So the police backed us on our charges with evidence of crimes proven. We've got all this. It's in the pack. There's a letter in the pack and that lot you can send off to police, because we're going to do another one where we go to the police, and we're going to go with CPS as well this time, because the police did back us, but we need to start moving them to help them move against CPS for us. So that's the way we're going to be going with
You
that.
should
But these
maybe
people
play a bit of that. Sorry, Nathan, I'm just saying you should play a bit of that at the end of the discussion, you know, just so people can actually hear how interested the police was and whatever.
Yeah.
And they wanted it. So you got to think, in the police's mind, they didn't join. You know, they didn't join that job to do what they're doing and protecting the people that they are protecting. But yet, they're duty bound, or they think they are, or whatever. A lot of them are actually quite interested. The amount of people that we spoke to along the way, the police, etc. You know, there is a lot of interest for, how can we do what we need to do in a lawful manner. There is a lot of interest from the right places that you'd want it to be honest.
Well, you're very sure. I mean, you've been there from the beginning of it as well. So you've been on a lot of the marches I have. We've both seen what goes on. A lot. We've both spoken. I mean, Gary as well. We've all spoken to constables. And if you treat them with respect, and you try and educate rather than like cassinate or dictate, most of them will be interested, because it's exactly like Rick says. Most constables get into the constabulary because they think they're going to protect life. They're going to keep the peace. They're actually going to do some good in their community. That gets subverted through their training. And this is what a lot of people don't realise. And then they are kind of bound by an unwritten rule. They're not to go against each other. They've got to do this. They've got to do that. So they kind of get trapped themselves. But there is a lot of constables out there now who are understanding that the public don't see them like they thought they would when they put that uniform on. And a lot of them do understand why the public don't see them with respect anymore. And a lot of them are trying to change that. But we can't keep attacking all the good constables as well as the bad constables. We need the good constables to actually back us with the bad constables. And until we create a situation, it's going to be very hard. And like I said, a lot of these constables are taught from what they class as the undying authority that this is exactly how the law is. This is what you need to do. Like I said, Rick, I've seen you talking to constables. You see me talk to constables. What is the reaction when they start to realise that their oath is actually to common law and not to statute? And when you start to show them that they don't actually have the lawful right to uphold statute, they get quite
It totally changes. Yeah, to me, I think you get a good reaction. Like when they used to see the T-shirt and all that in the mix of a demo or whatever, you'd find that they'd be lying for you, and they'd only be polite with you. You know, they weren't being aggressive or offensive or whatever. If anything, they was trying to, see what they could gain from it to use, kind of thing. I think we've had a lot of good response, to be honest.
Yeah, we have over the years many. So when we used to go, really, so we are going to start bringing that back, because I do think everyone needs to start now getting flags for their own groups. That lot, we need to start publishing ourselves and publicising the fact that there is unity between groups. Us doing away with flags and banners, that was probably the worst thing we ever did, because it's amalgamated into nothing now. There's no perception there of what's going on or what's actually being promoted or actually be going against. So we need that back. So groups need to start getting their flags back, their banners back, start sort of showing that it's like, even though I'm fighting for the children, I'm also fighting for my common law rights, and I'm also fighting for this and that lot, because you'll be backing everyone. This whole thing about, you've just got to concentrate on us, that shouldn't be, because it's about all of us.
That's right.
If we was to hold a common law day and we had a stage and some speeches, things like that, we'd want everybody turn up with their own flags, because that day is not about us, because we all have the right to our inalienable rights. We all have the right to common law, and we all have the right to be protected by our constitution. So every single group has the right to go there, and they have the right to basically promote themselves. And this is what we need back. But as Rick says, when we used to go down as the White Pen Dragons or C.M.W, we've done it a few times. Once they see the T-shirt, the logo, because they do know who we are. Many have dealt with us as being. You do get the odd one here or there. I don't know if you was there on that one, Rick, when I got that. I think it was the sergeant. He was told by his superintendent to get in the van and go back to the station, because he was getting a bit out of order. He was breaching the peace.
Yeah.
That's the only one really I remember that I've had to sort of really go up against. And he, to be fair to his superior officer actually got him to go back to the station. He was reprimanded. He only had a written reprimand, but I was more than happy with that because, as I said, I just want him to be educated on the fact he's not allowed to do this, and he was. But most of the time, it's like Rick says, constables come up, they want to talk, they want to interact. They don't want you to just start barking at them. They want you to explain your reasoning. What you're saying, why you're saying it. And once you do, you'll find a lot of them, because they got into the constabulary because they wanted to uphold law. So once you show them, here's the law, here's actually what it is, this is what it shouldn't be, most of them will make that decision themselves. Most of them, we've always got quite a good reception. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's been some events we've turned up and like the constable see the logo and they're like, oh, because they know that we're going
To me, it's no
document
different than any other job. It's no different than any other job. If someone gives you a tool which gives you an ability to do the job easier, better, you know, you're just going to use that tool. All we're doing is giving you that tool.
That's what we've been saying about C.M.W. Yeah, the way we look at it, if it's a tool in our arsenal to take down what's going on, and the knowledge that Nathan and Gary have got, then you know what I mean. We've got to use that.
Exactly.
Yeah, we have to use it. We have to use it. You know, it's definitely a tool in our arsenal that's got to be used.
100%. 100%.
I mean, this is the thing. A lot of constables we've had over the years, a lot of it's like Rick says. It's like once you educate them to the point, because you've got to remember they've been indoctrinated just as much as everybody else, especially if you're in the constabulary after 83. They've been indoctrinated. So this is a law. No one knows the law. Only you know the law. I mean, a lot of constables when I speak to will quite openly state that they do more research on the law than most solicitors they come up against. And it's true because they are bombarded every week with legislation they have to uphold. But once you actually educate these constables and educate them in their oath and what they're actually meant to uphold, a lot of constables are quite thankful because off the record, a few constables have said to me, thank you, because this means now I have just cause and just reason to deny orders. Because a lot of police, like me and Gary, it was Crescinda Dick herself, and was told, I believe it's on one of the videos, Crescinda Dick herself was told that the constables outside Scotland Yard had to arrest me and Gary. Had to. And a lot of constables are not happy with that because it's like I mean, I've spoke to constables about it who watched it and said you wasn't breaching the peace, and it's exactly true. You was there to highlight a crime and uphold the law. That cannot be classed as a criminal offence. I think that's why the whole thing disappeared, really, because what I was doing was actually of a higher lawful significance than the corona legislation they can't even prove. But,
yeah, true.
I mean, look at the advice that you give the pedo hunters and whatever, and then because they've had that extra coverage and power sort of thing, you know, look how many hunter teams there is now. There's at least 100 that I'm in contact with up and down the UK. You know, they're doing what they're doing under common law.
So that was, believe it or not, that was an uphill struggle to get anyone to actually listen to me on any of that. I mean, quite a few groups still are using 24A.
But now the police just work with them. It's just, yeah. But I mean, now it's just like any other process. It's accepted now. It's, you know, at first it was a bit, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. And if you remember, there was a lot of resistance from the police trying to stop people doing it, saying you're vigilantes and all that. But now it's normal. It's just they turn up casual, bam, 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 do this thing, hand over to the police. There's no questions. It's just handing over the information now. Here's the thing. Here's the information.
Because there was a small group of hunter groups that actually had a meeting, and I joined in that meeting via phone with, I can't remember his name, but he was a very high up member of the Met Police. And as I explained to him, because this is where I say, so the Section 24A is only really meant to be for the police to gather evidence, and it's true. But as I stated quite clearly, we are all the police. It's just some people get paid to do it on a daily basis. The rest of us have a constitutional duty to do it anyway. So to gather evidence of a crime so somebody can be convicted is there for all of us to do, not just the police. It isn't a specific to one person, to which he had to agree. But even in that, basically, in essence, it was a bit of a discussion, bit of an argument. He wasn't too happy with some of what I said, i.e. the fact that we actually, if not more, duty bound to actually uphold the law than the constable. But in essence, it come down to the fact of this is gathering of evidence for conviction. It's not doing, because what he said is you're trying to act like the police or do the police's job. Categorically, that wasn't true. They are assisting, and this is what every hunter group has to say. You are assisting in the gathering of evidence and to highlight the crimes, and then you will not get any bother, because then you are not trying to be a constable. You're not interfering with, and this is the main one discussion I had with this inspector of the Met Police in that meeting. You're not basically obstructing any form of investigation, because all you're doing is information gathering. And then you'll highlight it to the police. You give the police, again, they're doing the same thing. Before, they was just arresting the person, then trying to do the evidence after. But now they're doing it all right. They're getting the evidence, and then they're making the arrest, and they hand over to the police, and then it's signed. So there you go. But this is what a lot of people have to start doing.
This is the thing. We've been policing our own communities for some time now. You know, we've already been doing it, and it's already accepted. So changes are happening. You know, it just needs to be that one step further, in my opinion. You know, anyone that does anything needs to be held to account. You know, like the Khan thing, the facts and the evidence are there. Like you're saying, it can be revisited. You know, we just need public support. To me, them people weren't really relevant at the time, but they are now. So,
well, this is the thing. This
I
is
don't
the
know.
reason why it's done back then.
Would we get a different pool of people behind us this time, enough to make a difference? I don't know. It's got to be worth a try, in my eyes.
See, this
Well,
is the thing.
the more groups that start uniting, the better it's going to be.
Well, this is the thing. This is what we've been trying to do for a very long time, because a lot of people sort of like want to lead the charge, stuff like that. With C.M.W, we don't. We've kind of we have on court record evidence of sedition and treason. We have a case with evidence proven. Rather than sort of us be the Billy Big Boys and thingy, what we would rather have, like we spoke to you about, Dennis, in the British Resistance, it's like, as groups, we can all start gathering evidence. And then once the evidence is gathered, we can then add that to the already established case, and that case gets bigger and bigger and more cemented. So we have more of a chance of actually doing so. If we're all trying to sort of bring out our own court cases, I mean, it's like, I can't remember his name. There's some bloke on there who's trying to get common law constables and sheriffs down to a library to arrest some drag queens or something. So if they concentrated on the cases that have actually been successful, not like Benicia's, where he tried to do a legal argument that would have landed up getting his trust and money at the end. If we actually go by law, and we can actually put out all the proof, there's the evidence there, there's a crime reference number, everything of our arrest with Sadiq Khan. If you actually back what's actually been done properly, it will work. What we can't keep doing is having all these people that have come up with a gimmick. It's like, well, I found a loophole in, I don't know, commerce law or equity law. It's like, well, that's not going to bring a criminal conviction. It's going to bring money, but it's not going to bring a criminal conviction. Stop. If we want things changed, the only way things are changed in this country, or in any country really, is by law, not legislation, but by law. And for that to happen, the people have to stand up and uphold the values they want. And this is what we need to do.
In my eyes, people should have had enough of being led down garden paths and paying for things that are just worthless and signing petitions that get you nowhere. Let's unite on something that will work, and then every step you make, you're moving forward, not backwards or sideways.
Yeah, exactly, Rick. I totally agree with that.
Well, this is what we've been doing at C.M.W. It's like we always try and move forward, so we don't tend to go backwards to move forward again, because it's a case thing. It's like we'll help people catch up to speed a lot, but we can't keep doing it. It's been happening too much. Like I said, but this is where it's like people all have opinions and that lot and say they've got evidence of this and they can do that. Then what we need to do is start gathering. Every group needs to start gathering the evidence. So it's like with the WEF, our politicians, stuff like that, gather the evidence of their crimes. And then we'll sit down and discuss it.
All it needs consist of is one person from each group taking part in something, maybe once a week, to ask questions, get caught up on whatever with yourself and Gary, you know, troubleshoot anything that you've got, and you know, that in itself would be easy enough for you to do, wouldn't it? And
exactly.
then
That's
it kind of,
that's what,
yeah.
well, that's what we're
You
trying to
know,
build up now as we speak. But it's taking a bit of time, but it's slowly getting there. But this is the whole point. One person from each group can just be the relay, so that they're just the voice of the group, and then they can come to the table and say, right, well, we've got this evidence, things like that, and then we can start building it. Because every group that actually adds evidence to this thing, it's not, we're not going to think they're going to all get their name mentioned in it if it's successful and stuff like that. So everybody's going to get their name mentioned. It's not going to be we're just doing this and then we're going to run away with it, because we're not interested in that. But everybody who inputs will have the right to say, I did that, I took part in that, because that's what we want. It's going to take, like I said, we found this out with the Khan arrest, the Faber, sorry. Unless everybody backs it, and it's going to need everybody in their individuality with their sovereignty to back it. So they can. It's not a case of, well, their mate went and arrest them, I'll just watch them, they'll do it. It doesn't work like that. We are fighting against a very corrupt, very tyrannous government and judiciary.
What you're saying there, Nath, is bang on. You think of the groups and the platforms that was around at the time, and was there even a whisper of it? No. At the time, he was pushing all these other things that have ended up either scammers or, you know, people leading people down garden paths and whatever. All that was being pushed, but none of that was being pushed. It went worldwide. Where was everybody?
Well, this is the thing.
That,
I had
to me,
friends of mine. I had friends of mine that didn't even know I was in the movement or anything about it. And said, because apparently there was special broadcasts, and programs were stopped to actually bring people
yeah, it was
this
on
news.
Sky and everything, man.
Literally, we was even,
It was
and
on
it's very
Sky
hard to
all
do.
the world.
We actually even had a massive article. I think it may have been front page in the Tokyo Gazette, which I'm not being funny, it's not impossible to get on. But we managed to get
Yeah.
on there. It was global. We went around the world. But this is the thing. Yet, rather than back us, because we're not doing this for our own like kudos or ego, we're doing this because this needs to be sorted. And the way we've done it is, and this is how they've used it against us. The way we've done it is the people demand this. But what's happened is the people are not backing that demand, so therefore it just looks like we're on our own and we're just fraying about in the water. But this is why we've done it. We've done it on behalf of everybody, so everybody now can add. We've done the hard bit. You just now add your name, your sovereignty to it, and then we'll get this done because it is in the public's interest. Because at the moment,
yeah, it's a numbers game, isn't it? It's just a numbers game. The more numbers we get,
Yeah,
this is why we've concentrated on the Constitution and common law for so many years now, because it is the basis to remedy for everything. So whether we're talking about the sexual grooming of kids, Sharia courts, anything you name, illegal immigration, stuff like that, it can all be sorted out with our constitution. So every single group out there, every single movement that's got an agenda to either help the kids or say that, if they was to help come under one blanket, sort out our constitution, sort out our laws, you would watch by law loads of things being void just by that action, because they can't be lawful. But you need, I mean, we're all going to fight everything. It's like, well, I'm going to fight for the kids first, and then I'll do the constitution. You're never going to do it. So let's all get together and fight everything. There's nothing wrong with us all fighting at different angles, but if we're all using the same weaponry, it's going to be a lot better. Like I said, it's no good us going in there with a bazooka and you've got other groups going in there with spud guns. It just doesn't work like that.
Remember, Nate, when we used to go on that, can't think of the program at the time, that Nigel Farage used to run. And sometimes
LBC.
when we go on there, all ask the same question. Literally all ask the same question. You used to have to shut the thing down, if you remember.
Yes,
Lots of times
LBC. There you go.
You can make impact. Yeah, you can make impact. It's just, it's being a bit strategic about things, really, isn't it?
Well, this is it. If we all act in unity, exactly what you say. On LBC, we literally used to bring it to a standstill, because everybody would just be asking the same question over and over and over and over and over and over again, to the point where it just blankets the feed. So it's a case of they can't address that.
If you remember, they all used to have the same flag and whatever. And everyone, why's everyone got that same emblem or whatever? What's going on here? And then all the questions are flying the same. They're just like, we can't handle this. Just shut the feed down. Too
Well, this is
funny.
another thing as well about the logos and that lot, about like Facebook profile logos, stuff like that. It's like the worst thing that ever happened was when everybody allowed themselves to be tricked not to keep it up or not to push a certain thing, because
Yeah.
it's like you said, it was the White Pen Dragon logo. It was known for something.
Yeah.
So I said, it's that me and Gary are still known because we was the heads, we was the trustees, so we was like the leaders of the White Pen Dragons. But we've moved away and we've started C.M.W. It's no different. We've done all the actions that the White Pen Dragon's done, we're done with me and Gary. It's just we've moved to C.M.W and we've done more since. But if everybody was to actually start flying the logo again, you'd see what we had back then. You would see that the government and the police force and everybody started to realise, hang on a minute, these people are amassing here. They're starting to unify, and they're all coming under a certain thing. And this is not about coming under C.M.W or White Pen Dragon things out, but it's about showing something that you stand under. So there's not many logos that have a constitutional connotation like C.M.W or the Pendragons that actually really have an effect.
Yeah, it did. It had power. Definitely had power. At the end of the day, it's power in numbers. When they can see that you are, all unified, and you're all, you're not here to cause a problem. You're here to, bring a solution. You looked at differently, definitely, 100%.
Well, this is the thing. If we want this thing sorted, we're all going to have to start uniting. Now, not very, as me and Gary says, when we set up C.M.W, Constitutional Movement Worldwide, me and Gary decided from the very beginning there wasn't going to be any leaders as such. Yes, me and Gary are what you technically call custodians of the movement. We just basically oil the screws and keep everything working. But it's a people's movement, so it's based on what input you put in is to what you'll get out. So if you want something to happen, you want something done, then as much effort you put in is what you'll get out. So if you want something done, put in the effort. It's like with British Resistance, that they've come on board. They're now working with us, doing some amazing things and got some amazing plans. There's a number of other groups like Camp PTSD have asked us to go there for a talk. We've got quite a lot of unity happening now, and this is where we do need to really. That's why I wanted British Resistance coming on. That's why I can't thank Dennis enough, because we really do now need to start showing each other the groups that are actually on the right track, that are all together doing the right thing. Because it's like Dennis said, too many people who have got an opinion about common law, who have got a romanticised view of it, who are trying to teach it, who don't know enough to even teach the basics. Are leading people down the garden path. So the more groups like British Resistance and that lot, Camp PTSD, us and that lot, that come together and say, look, right, well, we've all united and we've all agreed we're going to use the actual laws and the proper way of doing it. We'll show other groups and other people. It ain't about who's got the biggest ego and about who's top of the thing. It's about everybody being on the same page. And then once it's like with British Resistance, they've already learned things and learning things that enable them to now go and do things on their own, so they can work with us and within their own group. And this is what we've been trying to fight for from day one.
Yeah.
Can you put the links on after this finishes, Nate, for them groups that you just said, so people can check on it?
Yeah.
Sure. And anyone can find us on Facebook.
Right, brilliant. That's it. If we all
on Facebook, we're only a small group, but we're a pretty good group. But some of us are on bans at the moment, as you can imagine.
Yeah, hard work on Facebook, isn't it?
Yeah.
Getter's not too bad. That's not a bad platform at the moment. I mean, it will change, I imagine, like all the others do, but for now, it seems decent.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun. You know what I mean? A lot of fun.
You have to unmute your mic, Timmy.
Oh, Timmy's on.
I think I can do it from this end. No, Timmy's muted herself, so we'll have to wait until she unmutes before she can join in. But no, this is the thing. This is what I think we really do need to focus on. It's like the British Resistance Group. I think how you found us, I think you was past our school notice or something, wasn't you?
Yeah, that's right. The lady in question who needed it is sitting right next to me at the moment. She needed a school notice to help protect her children from being jabbed. Yeah, and it was C.M.W that helped us get that notice. I can't remember what it was called, but they helped us get the notice.
Well, the notice,
yeah, and it works.
The notice you used was actually written by C.M.W. What it was is because numerous, because we wasn't going to do anything at the beginning, because I've been fighting schools and certain bits for vaccination for a number of years, and I was going to go a different way to it, but I found a quicker way to go through some bits. But we got pressured by a lot of people, because apparently there was a massive group of solicitors and barristers, say like 30 strong. Their notice didn't work, they ignored it. You had lawful dissent, you had a number of groups who sent notices, and they just ignored it. So then we thought, okay, we're going to write one, and we'll see if they ignore it, and if they do, we'll follow it up. But apparently no one's ever been ignored with it. It's just been no, we'll 100%, we'll contact you. So it's sort of done its job, really.
Yeah, he done its job for the lady in question, and at first the first notice she was given was by somebody else, and it didn't work. Yeah, but the one with C.M.W actually did work. That came from you lot. Yeah, that was actually passed on to us by Temmie.
There's numerous of us networking and coming together. So the unity started to happen. Probably, I would say, probably more now than it probably has done for about a good 5 years. So I'm very, very, very optimistic about it. We've got Temmie back.
I think it's just reaching beyond.
Can you hear me now, guys?
Evening, Tommy.
Evening,
Hi. It keeps getting me in and out, and I can hear now. Just to there's a lot of groups, just going back a little bit, that they've been following other groups on common law, and obviously when you try to explain things, they just don't believe it anymore because they've been let down so many times. And it's a big problem, and it's very difficult to tackle it. So, is any ideas of what we can do with it?
Oh, this is another reason why with C.M.W we always try and provide proof of our claims, which many don't, and this is the main problem. If people are trying to advise you of common law, the Constitution, anything like that, ask them for proof of their claims. Ask them for their sources, because if they cannot provide proof of their claim or the source of their claim, then they are not making a legitimate claim. For instance, it's like, Temmie, you've seen me do it enough times in court and out of court. It's like Magna Carta 1215. Now, I can literally, off the top of my head, run you through the whole chronology of why it's lawful, why it wasn't appealed, and stuff like that. Most people can't, because they don't know where to find the origin of the sources. They'll just say, oh, well, it's this. It's like, well, can you prove that? Because I'm going to need to prove that if I'm going to use it. And this is what a lot of groups and a lot of people don't do. They do not give you the proof, so you have a sound basis for your argument. A lot of them think it should be, well, you should just listen to me. No. This is why me and Gary have said it for many, many years, and this is why we created C.M.W. So we have a situation where you don't just listen to us, you challenge us. You challenge us, and then we'll give you the sources, we'll give you the proof, and then you can go, right, I've challenged, I've got proof of claim, I'm happy now, I'm going to go and use it. Most groups won't do that. Because most groups, you'll find, on the first couple of questions, they fall down and they don't like you, and then they want to block you because you become a troublemaker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as we say in C.M.W, and we've said for many, many years, there's no such thing as a stupid question with us at all. The only stupid thing is not asking the question to get the answer. That's the only stupid thing about it. And we're all learning at different speeds, so nobody should be taking the Michael out of anybody for not knowing as much as somebody else. It's all time we chip in and educate ourselves, educate each other, because they're not going to. So we need to educate each other, but it needs to be done properly. That's why I keep saying, until I'm blue in the face, the sources. Okay, there will be sources for your factual argument. If you're a group and that lot are doing this, then start putting out your sources out. Start proving your proof of claim. I said I can prove Magna Carta is still active because I've got a court order from this year where a judge wrote it himself and never rebutted it. So I can prove that physically. No one else has even gone into court and even attempted it. This is one of my main problems. It's like we've got a lot of people who have got a lot of constitutional common law groups. There is a few groups, by the way, who have actually gone to court and they've proven themselves. But again, they're a bit like C.M.W. We tend to get pushed at the back for the shields. But let's see.
Actually proved it for us.
Exactly. The Miller versus Regina 2017, I believe. The commentaries to that case are very, very interesting. But yeah, basically, the Supreme Court had to uphold our Constitution, namely the Bill of Rights 1689, 90, 88, 89. Because it impeded, basically, in technically speaking, it impeded on the government's right to legislate, or their lawful right to legislate, which is given in the Bill of Rights. This is what I was arguing in the Corona case as well, because the right to protest and that lot is on the same level as is the government's right to legislate. So one can't be taken by the other. But Gina Miller's case proved it. They held the Constitution. I mean, I'm not being funny. I'm going to organise something, because a court case is coming up where the court is being completely unlawful to the point where they are openly committing a crime. I've got the prosecution solicitor who has openly stated in court that we do not have a constitution. So I might be looking at, again, and we might be doing this with a couple of cases, because there's another case of a man I'm not going to mention at the moment that I might be working with, and we want to try and get some people who are going to come into the court and witness, because 15 witnesses, say 12 to 15 witnesses, all under Article 61 with their completed forms, that lot, it's going to be a lot more powerful than a magistrate or technically court record. It means that it will be witnessed by multiple people. So if you've got, say, 15 affidavits stating the court's committed a crime, it's going to be very hard for that court, and they're going to have to, by law, pick out every single aspect of that affidavit and disprove every single point of it. So our next step is to completely distrain the judicial system. So I'm hoping groups and everybody you get involved in that, because it's going to be fun. It's going to be slightly unnerving, but it should be good. But this is what we're going to do. We're going to start take it to the courts. We're now going to start, because we've proven a lot of things. Like I said, I've got stuff in court orders, like this case coming up I'm thinking about is in a magistrate's court, and where I've got stuff from the High Court of Appeal and a Crown Court, the magistrate stuff doesn't stand up against it. They have no right to contradict it or to counteract it. So it's going to be interesting. But there's a lot of things we're going to be doing. Like I said, it's like we've got a meeting, if you can, if there's a meeting coming up, the British Resistance Group, I believe it's in Essex, are getting together. So if you're around that area and you want to be involved in this meeting, please contact Dennis or the British Resistance. You'll find them on Facebook and Telegram, and then they'll give you the details to be able to get there. We've also been approached by Camp PTSD, which me and Gary are hoping to get to at some point. So we'll be doing a day there. So again, contact Camp PTSD and ask them when it may be happening. They'll be able to keep you up to date on the details. We are going to start doing more things out and about. We're going to start holding more days where we discuss certain things and go through certain things. I believe we may be rehashing the court educational system. So basically, we're going to be doing like court days where we enact a court and show you the pitfalls and certain things, and show you some of the wording and traps that they do to actually get you into, to help you stop you getting into it. But there's a lot on the plate, but please understand, we're a volunteer group. None of us get paid. This is all our free time and our own expenses that do this, but we are doing our best. But more is coming. Unity is happening. Like I said, it's like, please check out British Resistance Group. They are doing absolutely amazing stuff. An amazing bunch of people as well. You've got Little Alex, you've got Temi, you've got loads of people doing stuff. It's now time for unity. So if you think that you're going to be, I don't know, like Gary said earlier in his live, the new Wat Tyler, and you're going to run off it, because Wat Tyler never actually led the Lawful Rebellion back in 1215, believe it or not. He just took part in it. He did sort of kind of kick it all off a little bit, but he wasn't the main one pushing it all. That was actually other people. But this is where we need to start getting together. Get together, start talking, start uniting.
Yeah.
Start getting the right information out there. Like I said, when it's like Guardians 300. I know you know a bit about them and what they have or haven't done, Dennis, but you've got Guardians 300. You've got a few groups out there that look all right on paper and they're all right taking your money, but don't follow through. And Rick, I think you had us on a show once. I mean, this shows you had us on a show, and you had Mick Stott from Guardians 300 on the show once, but unfortunately Mick Stott left really quickly when he found we was coming on, so we never actually got a chance to talk.
Yeah.
To ask him myself. A few things.
Guardians 300 let down Gallows, man.
Yep.
Yeah, they let him down pretty bad. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it was crazy.
Because this thing, because I'm trying to be careful, because there is a lot of groups out there that are trying to do things because they generally do want to do some good and they're trying to think, but there's some good groups out there who think money before anything. So
Yeah.
as long as money comes in, it doesn't matter what happens after. But we've got to be. This is why I say anybody who's going to call anybody out, you need proof. So get proof and then call that person out. Let's not keep destroying the movement and what people are doing just by an accusation. An accusation is not enough. We are not judge, jury, and executioners. We
Yeah.
don't get inside that without evidence. So let's start doing due process ourselves, and then we can hold these other people to account with due process. I mean, I'm not funny. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Yes, Danny, I shall put, after this live, I shall go around, grab all the links of all the groups, and I shall put them in the comments underneath this live on YouTube. But this is what we need to start doing. We need to start talking out a lot. So me and Gary might be holding a more regular sort of like live like this, where people like you, Dennis, and that lot get to come on, ask a few questions, stuff like that. Because I know we've been teaching you bits about common law, but it's like some of the questions tonight you've been asking, you've got other people who want the answers to this, so you come in and asking questions for them. Sort of helps them, and this is what we need. We need people to come forward with questions. That lot. Don't worry about asking questions. Always ask questions. In fact, actually, as many as you need to. As many as you need to.
Oh, we're going to get plenty more. You can be sure of that.
Yeah. Anybody any of you guys who want to come on in the future, more than welcome.
Yeah, Q&As and stuff like that. It's a good thing to do, to be honest.
Well, it's not just that.
Yeah.
It's discussing possibilities, and if we're all talking with each other, then British resistance are not going to be overriding or doing something contrary to what we're doing. We can all work together in our own. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with attacking something at different angles. You just got to make sure one angle isn't knocking out another angle. That's all it is.
Yeah.
But we have Gary back.
Hi, Gary.
Hello, good evening.
I'm going to leave
can I just say something to Temmie? Yeah, Temmie's one of the admins in British Resistance. Yeah, and she does an absolutely amazing job. Yeah, she's just brilliant with everything. Yeah, and I'd just like to say thank you for that, Temmie.
Oh, you know, I'm there just to help out everybody. You know, whatever needs to be done. You know, I'm there for. So.
Well, I wanted to also thank you for putting us in touch with Nathan and Gary.
That's all right. I'm best.
Yeah, it's yeah, you do an absolutely amazing job in the group, girl.
Thanks.
Well, I've actually missed Nathan. I've missed a lot because I've got some problems here. Nathan. Oh.
I think Nathan's no. I think he's gone to the Kermit or something, Gary.
Oh, right. Have I missed much?
Yep.
No, yeah.
Probably have to play it back a bit after Gary, I think.
Yeah. Basically, what's happened with me, guys, I've just had to rush up to my house. They've got in my house again, and they've turned all the water on, and I've got a flooded top to bottom. Got to get all the carpets and that up tomorrow. They just left the water running. It's good. My nephew went up there to drop some stuff up for me. What he's got to do in the bathroom, and it was him who's come down. Basically, what they did, they pinched the boiler back again. What we've just put back on, pinched that, ripped all the water stuff, and when they ripped it off, it was live. So it's just flooded everywhere, and they've done a runner. But I don't know how they've got back in. I just don't know how they've got in.
Wow.
There's a point while we're talking about your house, Gary. I've shown the legislation, i.e. the Police Act of 1996 about impersonating police constable. I've also shown the Crime and Courts Act of 2013, which shows that you cannot impersonate a member of the court. You've had first-hand evidence of this and interaction with 2 High Court sheriffs, have you not?
Yes.
Could you explain a bit about that interaction for us, please? So people can get a rough gist about what's real and what's not.
Well, basically, when they show up, they introduce themselves, they show you the badges. You can ask them any questions that you want to ask them. They ask if the tenant's there, which he wasn't, obviously, because he'd already gone. They tell you what they're there to do. They're there to make sure that the transition is because you've won the the court. The transition is as peaceful as it can possibly be. They've got all the relevant paperwork of who's won what, which you have to sign to say you are now taking control back of your house. They give you the keys, they check everywhere. Basically, like you saw how the Messi left that house in Nathan. Basically, their job then is to take the same notes that you're taking down, so it marries up for when you it backs up everything that you say when you go to court again. Like
basically, what Gary's basically stated is the High Court sheriffs come there because it's the High Court sheriffs that actually take possession of the property.
Yes.
Because it is the court that has liability for the repossession. So once the court repossesses it using the High Court sheriffs, as Gary says, then gets Gary to sign over. So then possession is given back to Gary. So the middleman. But as Gary said, there's the key words there. They're there to make sure the process is done legally and lawfully and the peace is kept, because like every other member of our society, whether it be courts or police, they have to they cannot breach the Queen's peace, so it has to be done properly. So,
and that's why they walk round with you, and obviously they don't have to walk around with me to see what damage was done in my house. For you saw it yourselves, but they basically take pictures and notes themselves to back up what you're saying. So if he says no, I didn't leave it in that state, you've got the backing of the sheriffs, because that's excuse me, I think you did. Here's the pictures of the day we got back in the house.
Yeah, because
Mr. Clark was with us. When we actually got back in the house, Mr. Clark was with us, and he can't go in without us. That's the other thing. What you don't want to do is go in and try and get in without us, because it's the worst thing you can basically do. Because
Exactly.
you can say you've tried all sorts, you've intimidated them and everything. So what you do, you wait on the corner of the property where it is, and as the High Court sheriff's van goes past you and pulls up outside your house, then you pull alongside it or over the road, and then you make yourself known and you introduce yourself and you go in together. That is the best way, the most safest way you can ever get your house back.
Exactly, because as Gary says there, and he hits the nail right on the head, because the High Court sheriffs have to take possession of the property before anybody else. So if Gary would have entered that property before the High Court sheriffs entered that property, Gary would have no standing to say this is how the property is left. So what's happened is the High Court sheriffs have gone in. They've seen it, right, well, this is the state of it when we took possession of it before we give it to Mr. Clark. So they've documented that. They've then give possession to Gary. Then Gary's documented the situation that he's been left in. And then now you've got two first person's accounts of how the property stood as entry was gained. You've also got Gary's affidavit, but if he does one, that will uphold the fact that that was true. And then you have what you call a very, very good foundation for a criminal charge, basically. But this is why we keep telling people about gathering your evidence. Do things by due process. It's like with common law constables and some constitutional groups. People want to skip processes. It's like people gone about lawful bail and go, let's do it. I can assure you, me and Gary will not be doing anything under lawful bail unless you've got one of them declarations that's signed and lawfully done and it's all completed, because it doesn't work like that. You don't just get to go to, say that 200 of us decide we're going to go and do something under 61. If you've not done the process, you don't just get to come along and join in, because you're acting unlawfully, because you've not gone under 61 by royal command and by the law state. You're actually aiding and abetting the crimes of the very people we're trying to stop. So you're not actually stopping them, you're actually aiding and abetting them. By doing nothing, you're allowing them to carry on. So you're actually a criminal, so stay away from us. Okay, you have to do Article 61 to be the right side of the law. You just can't do it any other way. And you have to do the process properly. So there's no 5 or 7 step process to lawful rebellion under Article 61. The Barons invoked it on the 23rd of March 2001. The process has been the same for hundreds of years. It's a 3-step process. Declaration of entering into Article 61. Affidavit of truth. Claim of right. All sent 30 days apart from each other. The reason why they're sent 30 days apart from each other, so you send your declaration, you get 3 witnesses to witness that you signing that statement and dating it. So you've got to have 3 people that know you to be you. They can't just be somebody you met on Facebook you've never known or seen or anything like that. They have to be somebody who knows you in your private life to be you. But them 3 witnesses, the reason why you get 3 witnesses to sign is because you don't need to pay a solicitor £60 to £120 to get it notarized. You don't need any of these gimmicks. You definitely don't need to use a certain person's affidavit to try and get into lawful rebellion on his own, because that doesn't work. We've got this process there. It's declaration. Our declaration under Article 61 is your intent. So you declare that you're entering into 61. 30 days after that, you send off your affidavit of truth. Your affidavit of truth is your truth. Okay. You cannot have an affidavit of truth is I, not we. You cannot have we. Well, we think this, we think that. That you do not have in an affidavit. It annuls the affidavit. An affidavit is your truth and your truth only. So it's only I. It is never we in an affidavit. So remember that when you're writing one, because if you write one wrong, it can get you in a lot of trouble. You send that 30 days after. So then basically you've had 30 days to change your mind. You then send your affidavit of truth. That gets sent off. If within 30 days after that, you have no, because you won't get a reply, you've had no reply, remedy is not being given, you then do your claim of right. So you are now claiming your right after 60 days, it will be. You are claiming your right to distress and distrain Parliament in any way you see fit, as long as you stay within the laws of the land. And that is no loss, no harm, no injury. Okay, there is some stipulations that put us outside some of them, but stick to them and you can't go wrong. But that is Article 61 in its essence. Article 61 is not the magic cure. Article 61 is to notify and to bring about the situation where we can now start to lawfully remove these people and lawfully put our country back into its position it should be. It is not a case of signing 61 and overnight. Yeah, it's not a case of signing 61 and everything's magically done, like quite a lot of people are claiming. Article 61 is what you will need, because if we do have to take this country back by physically going and doing it, if you are not in Article 61, you will be prosecuted in the court case that comes after, because every single time anything like this has happened, there is always a court case, because the government are going to want to overthrow what we've done. And to overthrow what we've done, they need to prove we acted unlawfully. And it was actually a crime that we committed. Although I'd argue actors, mens rea, points of mens rea on that. But it is. So basically, if you're under Article 61, when it comes to the court case and you go, well, you withheld your taxes. It's like, yes, because I had the lawful right to do so. Here's the proof. You don't just go, well, the government's tyrannous, so I ain't paying the money. That's going to get you thrown in prison. Like I said, it's like if it's done right and it's done in the right way with the right process, things do stand. It's like Gary mentioned earlier, we have done things with council tax in the past, but we haven't tried. There's a route we're going to try now, but we didn't try that before. But the route we tried before just put everything in a stalemate. The council won't bring a court case because then they, as Gary said, they have to provide proof of claim. They can't just get away with saying nothing. We can't bring a court case because we can't technically prove anything or to be able to bring a court case. It just stays in stalemate. So no one gets paid, no one moves, which is good, but in the long run, not great. But we are in pack 2 of our manual, because we say to everyone, basically C.M.W are going to build up a big book. It's coming out in parts. Part 1 is already out. Part 2 will be coming out. Part 3 and all that will come out after. And it's going to build a big book. So you print it off yourself. You have it on your shelf. So if you have a problem with council tax, if you have a problem with people coming on your property or anything like that, you go to the manual. It'll tell you exactly. It'll give you the notice to use or what to use. It'll tell you exactly how to use it step by step. And it means then you can act on your own volition. You can deal with your own affairs, and that's what a lot of people fall down on. Because unfortunately, we use solicitors and barristers. These barristers don't actually act for us. They don't act for us on behalf of a solicitor. They act on behalf of the court system. They just act within the court system. So they are not dealing with your affairs. You're basically going to court and making yourself a ward of court. You're basically saying, right, well, I either can't be bothered or I just don't want to deal with my own affairs, so I'm going to pay someone else to do it. That goes against you in court, by the way. A man standing on his own principle and his own morals, under his own rights, under his own laws, in court will do better and will be more upstanding and will mean more than any solicitor who's whored themselves to the highest bidder to go and peddle their wares in court, I can assure you.
And when you're distressing the government, ladies and gentlemen, and people saying, yeah, but you're causing loss, harm, injury to the government. No, you're not, because basically you are not obligated to fund tyranny. You are under 61
Right.
there to stop tyranny. So basically, it goes under what's called the chronological order of the crime.
Yes.
And the government has caused the first crime by being tyrannous and corrupt. So then you are only retaliating to that, and you're now withholding your rights, you're withholding your payments of taxes, etc., which is your duty and your right, until that redress has been done. You're not refusing, you're just withholding. That's very important to understand. You'd never refuse, you withhold until.
Yep. It's basically offer and acceptance. Basically,
Yeah.
you're saying, right, I'm withholding my money, but I will pay if you can prove to me that legally and lawfully this money is going where it should do, and I have the obligation to pay. That's the offer. They can either accept that and go with it, or they can do a counter offer. They don't often do a counter offer, but it's offered acceptance. And this is with every single contract. At no point can you just go no or deny a contract, because you're actually then you're kind of breaching the contract, because you're dishonouring the contract. It's like, for instance, me and Gary had a little discussion with a patriot not long ago. Now, this is a patriot who's claimed to have been in Article 61 for about 10 years, claimed to have used common law, and it's never worked. Well, with a little discussion with me and Gary, this person actually, although he's loved by a lot of people, actually had to admit that he's never used common law. He's only ever used a statutory system. He's never used common law. The only time he's ever tried using common law, I mean, and this is why people really need to actually ask people for their sources and their reasoning for stuff, because he thought that and I will name him later on. I'm not going to name him right now. I'm going to give him a chance to apologise and do the right thing. But he thought that all you had to do is deregister your car from the DVLA, and you had the right to travel the road unimpeded. He doesn't know the wording. He doesn't know the thing. He didn't even understand the fact that his driving licence is a contract that binds him to the Road Traffic Act. So no, he doesn't have the right until he deals with that contract. But this is what we're getting. We're getting a lot of people who are like, because he basically thought, he was like, well, I deregistered my car from the DVLA, so therefore common law should just work. It's like, well, no, you actually have to uphold the common law. At no point is he ever gone to court and upheld any common law. He thought that all he had to do was just claim it or state it or do something, and it would just be given. It's not like that. And he was proven in the end to not have done anything. Literally, all the crap he spouted, and he does attack common law a lot and says it's all bull crap. I mean, he tried saying that he went into 61 10 years ago, and he left it for about a year and nobody did anything. As well, if you did it 10 years ago, you'd have known that we did ours under 61. But this is a problem. We do get a lot of people, and this person basically did admit he'd rather go for a legal prosecution that's going to get him 500,000 slave tokens than he would do actually uphold his rights in the common law. And unfortunately, this is a lot of what we deal with people teaching common law and stuff like that. A lot of people, they want a gimmick, or they don't want to do the hard work, or they don't want to actually do it correctly. They're in it for personal gain. And unfortunately, despite what a lot of people think, just because you can get the public to do something doesn't mean it's legal, it's lawful at all. So just because, I mean, it's like the common law court, just because they've got a few thousand members and they all agree with one thing and this should happen, does not make it legal, does not make it lawful. Because there has been no due process. And I can't stress this enough, due process is like this patriot that everybody loves, but tried attacking me and Gary and C.M.W and anybody who does common law saying it doesn't work. Has never done. Yes.
Nathan.
Yes.
Some people have actually given up their driving license, but they have gone through the CLC and they got this card that apparently that will allow them to do all these things. And that's wrong too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is the thing. The common law, if they've re-registered their driving license, then it's a crown instrument, so it can't be re-registered as a common law court at all, because you don't own your license. That's why you can get done for damaging it or defacing it. The same as with money.
So putting the stamp on the back doesn't work either.
No, it is a government contract. You agreed to that contract. If you was going to do anything to that contract, you should have done it before you signed it. Right. But you've agreed it, you've signed it, so now you're party to that contract. And this is what a lot of people don't realise about the driving licence. It is a contract. And it's a contract that is ever changing because of the road traffic laws and stuff like that. As far as getting rid of your driving license things out, you can do to a certain extent thing, but you've got to go through a lot of stuff. You've then got to go through the process of notifying about your car, about things like that. For instance, a lot of people think you can still drive around with a registration plate on. A registration plate is exactly that. It's a number plate that indicates that car is registered. So again, if you're driving around with a number plate on with no license, you're committing a crime because you're basically having the public or somebody know that you are licensed under registration when you're not. That's the reason I call it a license plate. These are all linked: driving license, your registration of your car as to the DVA as the owners, and you become registered keeper. This is all linked to contracts. You have to deal with each and every one of these contracts. Otherwise, if one's still active, the rest are still active. It's very hard because they can rely. It's called tacit consent or implied consent, actually, because they can rely on you previously agreeing to this contract and the fact that you haven't fully annulled all contracts, that you by proxy would agree to this contract, if you understand what I'm saying. So you have
marriage license. A marriage license is the same.
Yep.
Marriage license is a marriage license is just an amalgamation of two companies into one.
That's exactly correct. Exactly correct. It's a license. It's an agreement. It's an agreement that has penalties, and this is why we say to people, it's like, don't buy Black's Law Dictionary. It's like a lot of people you see me use mine over the years because I deal with America, the Philippines, and other places with a constitution that use it. But in England, Wales, mainly, we use the Oxford Dictionary of Law. Okay, so buy yourself an Oxford Dictionary of Law, look up things like license, registration, look up the meaning, because this is what we all need to start understanding, the meaning of the words they're using, because we're taught a subverted form of grammar. So the grammar we're taught in school is different to that of legal grammar or of Old English grammar. They are three separate entities. So you have to know what you're dealing with. So when you go into court, please understand you are dealing with a language that was created by the Law Society, not the English-speaking people. Definitely not Sir Francis Bacon's English. But this is what people got to understand. This is where you get to grips with it. Once you know the meanings of these words, like license, registration, most of it becomes a lot more easier to understand, because as soon as them words are there, you know what they mean. It's so registration. So you want me to transfer ownership? I mean, you get to know it, but we have to start learning some of these things. Like I said, me and Gary, usually we both sort of the same. So if we're doing court paperwork, if need be, we'll put our own dictionary, so our words can't be interpreted. I'd say that to anybody, really. Clone of Batman, Dog Latin. It is Dog Latin.
As long as it means what it says and says what it means, it cannot be interpreted any other way.
Clone of Batman, yes, technically speaking, that is one of the names, Dog Latin, yes. There's a few names. I'll do a brief history for you quick. This is going back to before the English language was really established. We're going back to Sir Francis Bacon, really, because Sir Francis Bacon, with editing the Bible, Shakespeare, and you've got a few other things. That's when the English language was first cemented as a true language that could be used globally. The only other languages really used about that time were mainly French and Latin, to be honest, in our history. That's why we've got Cecil KV Act in our laws, because it's the French part of the law courts, because they did sort of was united in a way. But Dog Latin comes about because of Latin monks, basically. Latin monks used to play a word game, because the grammar for Latin and the grammar for English do not mix in any way. They are completely, it's like getting north and south of a magnet and trying to drive them together. They won't. They'll always push each other apart because they're not meant to be. They're not the same. Although Latin does have origins, the same origins as English language, i.e. the Celtic or Gaelic origins. But the monks used to play a word game with each other to pass the day, because they didn't really have much to do. So they used to sort of come up with sentences and phrases that would be using both Latin grammar and English, or it'd be used Latin with English grammar, and they used to play this game. It then was used in legal paperwork. There's a few names for this. We'll do a live on this actually at one point, because this does need to be explained. But it was using legal paperwork, and then we sort of come about. That's what a lot of people like you to speak about, Dog Latin, because you can actually see proof of this in court paperwork. We actually have a modern day version of it, actually called Pig Latin, which a lot of children, especially when I was younger, with play. I removing ends of words and putting them at the beginning and stuff like that. This is all it. It's all language. And then once you realise, like dog Latin, pig Latin, all that lot, it's just a manipulation of language. You'll understand how legally they have actually manipulated our language. As I said, in the English language, every word has roughly 8 to 16 meanings, depending on where you put it in a sentence. So, i.e., position and context. Sorry, was you talking to me?
Yeah, no, thanks for that. No, that's okay. That's fine. Strength and altitude now.
But hopefully that explains a bit about dog Latin. We are going to do a show about dog Latin because we've got coming about commerce maxims. We're going to be doing some bits about court paperwork as well. Like I said, I read court paperwork differently to most people because I understand what's on the page and what's not. Many people don't, and it traps many people. That's why me and Gary are being asked again if we can do some of the court thingy days where we go through certain bits about this and stuff like that. So we'll be doing that.
Yeah, interesting.
See, the problem is that me and Gary have spent many years learning this, and not just learning it, but me and Gary have actually gone to the police. We've actually gone to places that we've actually lawfully petitioned. We've gone into courts. We've argued this, had it upheld, and that lot. So it's like a lot of this is through, as Gary said earlier, we would never get. I mean, Dennis says it's like with the school notice. I'm sure Tanya would agree. She was probably told that I used that notice myself, because that was part of my research and what I was doing. I use that notice myself before I give it to anybody else. Because the way me and Gary work is it's like Gary with his property. He tried something that even his solicitor said that shouldn't be happening. It doesn't happen. It doesn't, because she wasn't taught it. But Gary used it before he would advise anybody else, because then if he knows it works, he can advise some people on it. If it failed, he's then got to go, like we have many times over years, we've got to go back to the drawing board and say, right, where did this fail? Why did it fail? And then we've got to adjust it. It's like with a school notice. It was adjusted a couple of times before. I mean, they all worked, believe it or not. It's just I managed to define it so there was no interpretation of that actual notification. So in the end result of the one that the lady next to you, Dennis, I ain't going to name her name, sent was actually the final one where no interpretation could be given of the wording. Oh, there you go. Tanya's in the chat now. Yeah, but this is the reason why. I think that was third in the series of them notices, and there could be no interpretation with that one. So it's based on the fact that there's no contract with the schools and stuff like that. There's lots to it, but many people won't have done all that research, so many people won't go into it enough to know how to actually manoeuvre something like that and do it.
Well, you've only got to look at when we went to New Scotland Yard, Nathan. I mean, unlike when I mentioned him this afternoon, Mark, when he's gone and had all his paperwork submitted and they accepted it and everything else, they wouldn't even accept ours, because they know with ours it will say what it means and means what it says. It's not open to interpretation. Every charge that we put in for sedition, for treason, for subversion, it was all there, and they'd have had to do something. And that's why you had the police on the day. It was like a hot potato. Yeah. We're not accepting that. I'm not accepting that. Not one policeman wanted that paperwork. And then you say, the other way we could get it in there was for one of us to be arrested. And we both, because I travelled to Belarus and back on the train, we both said, yeah, I'll do it, which was you. And that was the only other way we could get it into the court, because now if they take us to court and it goes anywhere like the High Court or whatever, the first thing they're going to do, why was you there? Because of this. And then they've got to look what was in the documents. And they ain't going to do that, because the minute they do that, they are opening the right can of worms, and they know it.
Well, this is the thing. That one outside Scotland Yard, I did sneakily with that. Temi was there actually, with a little bit of help from the judge who was acting as the magistrate at the time, because he wasn't too happy about what was going on, and I think he was a bit upset because my case should have been dealt with by him. It could have been done, but he only had the powers of a magistrate at the time. Otherwise, he said himself it'd be different. But thanks to that judge and a bit of clever wording and manoeuvring, them charges are now on court record. They are just sitting there nice and dormant until we want to open them up and start using them. So it's like people don't realise we've already preloaded a lot of stuff into the courts. It's now what we need is unity. We need people to fight with it and fight with us against it in the right way. And we can actually start bringing this out because they've already, this is what people don't realise. It's already been submitted and to court record. It's not been rebutted.
Yeah.
No.
It stands.
Yeah. And
We just need people to back it. This is where our sovereignty does really matter.
but it's like I said, people just want to poo-poo it rather than, you know, to me as well. What have you got to lose anyway?
Yeah.
We've tried everything else. It don't work. Try the thing that we've been going on about from day one. Let's try it out. What you got to lose?
Well, this is my point. People are willing to go to civil war at the drop of a hat. So they're willing to go and lay their lives on the line and kill other people if need be. So it's like, so why ain't you brave enough to sign a bit of paper? Why aren't you brave enough to like post a bit of paper that's actually going to tell the government you're not doing this to me no more?
Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, if people are worried about, well, they're going to have my face. You've got your face when you go to London with the facial recognition. They've got know everything about you through your address, through your national insurance number, through your driving license, like now if it says through your car, everything. They know everything about you already that they need to know.
Yep. In
So
the 90s,
signing a bit of paper is not going to make any difference whatsoever.
I think it was back in the 90s is when it started, or they did it. They made a database where it was all linked. So if you are stopped in the street, you'll have every bit of information they need to pull up anywhere. Any police can gather it on you. The government have got it all anyway. They're literally telling you, Google. And this is what I don't understand. You won't sign your name to stop tyranny, but you'll go on Google that is taking all your information of what you like, what you don't like, how long you watch something, things like that, and you'll do this and you'll do it happily, but you will not sign a bit of paper that lawfully notifies them people that you've now taken your sovereignty away and they no longer have the lawful use of it. Because the Crown and Parliament, even though they keep stating that Parliament is sovereign, it's not. It's not in any way, shape, or form. Even Dicey had to admit that. A.V. Dicey, later on in his writings. Yes, I've read a lot of constitutional books. I mean, I'm all right now.
If you look the way it's moving anyway, any of these groups either are now or will be in the near future classed as domestic terrorists. If you're in lawful rebellion, it's the only lawful way of still doing what you need to do. You know, to me, it's like having a bulletproof vest on. Why would you not put it on? You know,
yeah, you know, you're 100%.
It's protection. Yeah.
I mean,
and that's what I said.
What
have you got to lose? You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. It's a no-brainer for me.
I mean, this is it. It's like Richard said. It's like you've got a lot of people who are running around doing stuff and that lot, and it's like they will be classed as domestic terrorists. I mean, if you're willing to have that done and you're looking at possible life imprisonment, why wouldn't you try it the lawful way first?
Why not get protection?
Look how many have already ended up in prison with all these mad movements here and there and little groups popping up. How many have ended up in prison anyway? Do you know what I mean? It's if you do it right and you do it unified and they can see your intentions are for good, not for bad, you know, you will get support in all the right places, in my opinion. It's just we need to fish further than the Patriot pool or whatever. To me, there's a lot of
I don't personally know anybody who has ever been in trouble doing what we advise them, because we don't advise people to do stuff that's going to get them in trouble. We only advise people correctly. We've never said go and do this and you'll be fine, and then they've gone and done it and then ended up 6 months in prison for what they've done. We've never advised anybody in that capacity because we wouldn't do that.
How many have done though, Gary? Do you know what I mean? Along the way, how many have done?
But not us. We have never done that.
No,
I mean, not being funny. I'm not going to name any names, but a very well-known patriot has had a complete shield round him for 3 years. Now, this person was saying, "Oh, common law's a bunch of crap," now, to the point where, I mean, you had him on one of your shows, Rick, to the point where he claimed he knew more about. Say again.
You can name him now. We did a video covering it.
Sweet, right? Yeah, Tracy Blackwell basically had some bloke around her, and he was claiming that his brother died or something in the armed forces and that lot. And Tracy, being who Tracy is, took him under her wing. And basically took him at face value. But it turns out 3 years later, this person lied about every single thing. And the only reason why I mention this is not to attack Tracy, because at this point, this is where Tracy could help a lot of other people. If she come forward and admitted how easy it was and how our emotions can be manipulated against us, it would go a long way to actually helping a lot of people stop this. But this same man who Tracy Blackwell started out with me and Gary, really. We sort of gave her a first sort of major platform, as far as I remember. We also taught a lot about common law, the Constitution, that lot, to the point where she actually went into the Royal Courts of Justice and did a good 2.5 hour job of holding them to account. But then, by the looks of it, went with numbers, lawful dissent, and it's petered sort of down from there. But this person, who was around Tracy Blackwell, has done nothing but in the last 3 years say that common law doesn't exist. It's a pile of crap. He even went as far as, what did he say on your show, that common law didn't start in 1066. Yeah, he didn't have a clue. Yeah. Now, this is what I think. Tracy Blackwell should know more than enough of what we taught him, and we showed her the proof. So she should know more than enough that he was talking about his backside. But I'm not attacking Tracy, but this is how someone's emotions can get them to override what factual things they're seeing, because Tracy wanted to believe this man. She wanted to believe he was true and wanted to believe he was genuine, and that overrid a lot of the flags she probably would have seen any otherwise. But if this man can do this for 3 years, imagine how many other people, and he was pushing and leading a lot of the group, so imagine how many other leaders we've got who are lying. Imagine now how many other leaders who are kind of claimed to be constitutional experts and common law experts, and me and Gary, by the way, have never claimed that. We're just two men who just bother to do our research. Why would these people not come on a debate like this and discuss and prove me and Gary wrong?
True.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm not being funny, like you see tonight. I'll show you the sources where I'm getting stuff for like impersonating a police constable and impersonating someone from the courts. I can show you exactly the common law based statutes that I'm relying on. So surely, if these people can prove me or Gary wrong, they'd be able to come on, because you can screen share on our platform. So if Dennis wanted to prove me wrong or something, we had to do screen share what it is now, and everybody would see it. Why can't these people do it?
Exactly.
I mean, we've got a group that's apparently going to go and storm another library and arrest a drag queen, that has said now that they're not going to use common law because they've never used it properly in the first place. Basically, is the truth of the matter, and they never knew how to use it in the first place. They just took something they heard off the internet or something, or off someone's Facebook Live. Thought that sounds good. We'll manipulate that to how it's going to be good for us. But they are now apparently going to go.
Sorry, mate. Sorry. I was just going to say, look at that when they was going to storm Parliament. Do you remember, based on that ridiculous scrapbook they called a case log or some madness?
Oh my God! You're about the King's
they
flag.
was going to go and storm. Yeah, this is how out of hand it can get. It's ridiculous to the point where it's dangerous to, I can't believe people was quite happy to let the veterans go and storm the Houses of Parliament with bogus paperwork. It's like, I just can't believe it, to be honest.
Well, it's not
just that's how dangerous it gets, misinformation. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, because you've got that one you're talking about, where with the vets, the whole plan from this group and the vets didn't find out till on the day when they turned up. But the whole plan of this group was they was going to use the vets as a human shield, because they didn't think the police would shoot the vets.
That's it, Operation
Come on, people. I mean, seriously, these are the people that you're trying to deal with. Somebody that would basically like, so I don't get shot, Sophia, I'm going to put you. No, I'm not being funny. If there's going to be a line, I'm going to be standing shoulder to shoulder with people who are going to get shot. I'm not going to sort of stand behind and go, right, shoot them first. It just doesn't work. What you're doing is correct. You do not need a human shield.
How many months was we telling them it was all bogus, and it only got cancelled the day before? Do you know what I mean? What the hell? For the people around that situation, that you would have thought, do you know what? I'm gonna look at the facts and look at the evidence and make my own opinion. It didn't really happen until very, very late. That was a potential to be a hell of a lot worse. Who was the people that stepped in and warned everybody? If you and Gary wouldn't have, who would have? Because not everyone else seemed to be staying silent.
Well, this
certain
is the reason
people was
why.
propagating it and pushing it. So
Well, this is another reason why me and Gary get attacked a lot, and we're classed as, you know what I mean, it's like public enemy #1 as far as a lot of groups are concerned, because we can prove what you're doing is wrong, and we don't do it to out you, we don't do it to defame you or try and make you look silly. We do it because we want everybody doing it in the right way, because then things may happen. But it's like you mentioned there, when you're talking about a bit of paper, some paperwork that has no lawful foundation, absolutely no lawful foundation, which is based on an opinion and not factual evidence, and then you're going to get a load of people from the army to stand there and be your human shield and that lot. I mean, this is dangerous. And it's like you mentioned there, like with the King's flag scam and that lot. Again, another one that we stepped into. We don't step into cause infighting because it's not infighting. And this is like what Dennis was saying earlier. This is not infighting. If you're doing something wrong for some reason, a lot of people come to me and Gary and C.M.W and a couple of other people that come to us because a lot of people don't feel on their own that they have a voice. They're not listened to. So often, if enough people come to us and say, right, this group is doing this is damaging. If we look into it and it's like, actually, you are committing a crime and you're getting people, then we will address it. That is just the nature of the beast, because we're trying to help people. We're not trying to put people down, because as me and Gary said so many times, we understand the fact that everybody's learning at different rates. There is some people in it for nefarious reasons, but there's also a lot of people who may be making mistakes that are in it for good reasons. So it's like with the King's flag scam. Despite what they say, we did try and approach them to understand their reasoning. They just told us to basically F off, read the material, to which I replied, I have. He just gave me more questions. Are you willing to answer me? There's no bugger off. You're blocked.
yeah, it was more based on selling shares at £25 a share, wasn't it? If you remember, it was more focused. It's always the same. It's always the same. A financial reason behind doing what they're doing. You got to think people are pissed off.
All the people still waiting to be hung by a development post, Rick.
Yeah, this is it. This is it. Do you know? But people have got a very short memory. They forget the things that have already unfolded and the thing that you guys have, you know, exposed along the way. They have got a very short memory to these things. And
unfortunately,
there's
a lot of people.
There's not. Well, to me, there's nothing that's ever fixed it along the way. It's like the brakes are applied just before impact. Do you know, when they could have been applied well before and avoided any collision whatsoever? But to me, I've always said there needs to be one pool of common information for everybody. You know, it benefits everybody to know the facts, the truth, the evidence, and be able to, you know, prove it.
To me, Rick, the big fat elephant in the room is Article 61. Always has been and always will be.
Yeah.
And for some reason, people just want to avoid it. Oh, there's Article. Oh, don't look over there. Article 61's over there. It's like avoiding the inevitable. It's like, because once they admit Article 61 is the way, they've got to actually get off their arse and actually participate. And I don't think a lot of people want to do that. They'd rather pay 25, 30 quid to somebody else for them to do it instead.
Yeah.
And that ain't never going to happen.
To be fair,
when I signed Article 61, it gave me a new boost of energy, a new outlook. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and so it should. So it, you know, it should actually do that for every single person. If you know what I mean.
That's what it done for me.
Yeah, because you're taking back your power. We
that's
lend our
right.
sovereignty to these people. We lend our sovereignty to these people, and they've done nothing but commit crimes in our name. So when you undergo depredation, you take your name back. You're taking your power back, and it is empowering.
Yeah,
you can see there is actually something you can do.
Yeah, that's what it should be, Dennis, and that's what me and Nathan, it puzzles us so much that you've got this document out there that's so powerful. It gives you everything you need, all the tools you need. It even empowers you to the point where the government can't touch you for doing it, as long as you stay lawful and peaceful. And nobody seems to want to be interested in doing anything about it. They'd rather go and pay this scammer, that scammer, to go and oh, there's £30, go and do this for me. But nothing ever gets done.
Is all it cost me was a stamp.
Yeah.
That's what it should. That's what it should. It should cost you the
You know what I mean? That was all it cost me.
It's like Gary
Yeah.
says, a lot of people want to pay someone £25 or £30, but what you're doing is you're doing exactly what happens when you go into court. You're just basically saying, I can't be bothered to uphold my rights. I can't be bothered to do it, so I'm going to pay someone to do it. But the problem is, it's a maximum effect in law. Nobody can uphold your rights for you. You have to do
No,
it. So you can't
Yeah.
pay someone to uphold your rights. It doesn't work like that.
That's right.
No.
Yeah.
And people wonder why that nothing ever happens. It's like, well, you've paid someone to do something they can't lawfully or legally do, so you're not going to get a result that way. I'm sorry, but that's the facts.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
you know, you can't get. It's like petitions. The petitions are never, ever, ever going to work, Dennis, ever, because
No.
all
I
a
never
petition
sign them.
is
I never sign them,
now.
mate.
Yeah, but all a petition is, it's you have to. The government to say, right, if you get 100,000 signatures, we'll discuss it, and that
Yeah.
discussion can be 30 seconds. Stand up, right? I've got this petition here. We need to talk about such and such. There ain't a lot we can really do about this. Who's with me and who? I's for and now's against. And that's it, 30 seconds. And yet you've had to go and get 100,000 signatures for that. For them to just more or less stick the middle finger up at you and laugh at you and say, well, you've had your discussion, 30 seconds. Now piss off. That's basically what they're doing.
This is the thing as well, because there is two forms of petition. A lot of people don't know. There's the legal petition, which is the parliamentary petition, which is Gary's talking
And the
about,
one
where you
we
get
did-
100,000 signatures, and then you've got what you call lawful petition. That's the one me and Gary did outside Scotland Yard, to which the one I got arrested for, because C.M.W Dick did not want us lawfully petitioning her. She basically committed crimes, so she didn't get lawfully petitioned, because one is more powerful than the other.
Yeah. And basically, that's why they was never going to take that paperwork off us in that legal capacity, because they knew that we do our job right, and they would have been in shit. Well, they are still in shit. We only need the backing. They're still in shit.
Well,
Big
at the
shit.
moment, at the moment, the only case that's ever got anywhere near conviction is our one, and that's for the 5 MPs. And the London police, most police forces around England are very aware of what we've done and what we do. The constable in the video actually states that they knew we was coming, and they knew why we was there. That's why C.M.W Dick wanted us to be arrested, so we couldn't complete our task. Temi tried taking the paperwork in as well, and someone else tried taking the paperwork. I think it was 2 police stations a couple of days after that. Nobody would take the paperwork, because the simple fact is, like Gary says, the first one we did, the Fabian Society, was solid. And they know they're going to have to act on it if we put it in, because the way the paperwork's done and the way it's submitted, they have to act, or they become conspirators to the act.
Well,
Temi's
Temi's
still
on here. Yeah, if Temi's still on here now, I think she is. But she was with me when you got arrested, Nathan. And I'll tell you, they followed me everywhere trying to get me to say one thing out of place so they could arrest me. There was livid. You could see the steam coming out the ears, but I don't give them any lawful reason to arrest me, and they couldn't, basically.
They even went
like a tree.
They even went on the tube station with us, and they actually sat down there with one of them, isn't it, at the tube station to make sure that we were leaving.
Well, this is the lengths they go to with us. I don't. This is the thing. Me and Gary don't publicise it, but there is so much they do to us in our private lives, in every walk of life, anything we try to do. There is so much they do to us that doesn't get advertised or publicised. It's unbelievable. But they do a lot. They've tried destroying everything, and they do try and attack you in any way they can, whether it be just trying to get you to say something so they can arrest you or anything like that. They do it a lot. A hell of a lot.
I mean, he even said when we went to catch a tube, the last thing he said to me was, "Boy, Gary," he said, "I've got to give it to you, because our boss C.M.W wanted you arrested the same as your mate. But we've tried everything. We couldn't get you to do anything. But fair play to you. Just do us a favour. Make sure you don't come back to London. Have a safe journey. Bye." And they went. They tried everything. Absolutely everything.
I mean, this is how stupid it is. They could not find anything on me and Gary to actually arrest us for anything. So in the end, I got arrested because a member of the public, who shall name nameless for the moment, who wasn't actually standing with me and Gary at the time, but because she approached myself and Gary and then started speaking to the constables, I was arrested under the corona legislation for being in a group of 3 people. That's how
that's
stupid
basically
it got. That's how stupid it was. Crescinda Dick ordered them to arrest us under that rather than taking the lawful petition, which means she would have had to have acted, or she becomes complicit. This is how far they'll go.
If she's
Yeah.
not there now, well, can we take it again to the person? Oh no, because it's on the court now, isn't it?
It's on court record, but it doesn't mean that we can't lawfully petition the new head of the oath of office that's there.
He seems to be more reasonable, I think, and he doesn't like.
Like anything. Sorry,
Yeah.
Tommy.
No.
That might be a good idea, actually, Nath.
Yeah, we have spoke about it and sort of thing. There's a couple of other things. So there is a few things on the cards at the moment. It's sort of like, if we can get the right people and we can get it done properly, then we are going to be doing these things. We are going to be moving forward. I mean, me and Gary stood back for a year and a half, just over nearly 2 years, because basically me and Gary have been doing, when me and Gary first started this, majority of people didn't even know the common law or the constitution even existed. I'm telling you now, it used to be a pipe dream because it's like a lot of people think that it's like the Pendragons were started by Stephen, Davey, and Graham Moore. It wasn't. It was actually started by us in the chat of a certain radio station. They was just asked to be the figureheads. Later on, people like Gary, myself, and some other people was actually put in as trustees to actually lead and run the movement. Again, the other three were just figureheads. It sort of come about in a funny way. Like I said, it was us in the chat, so it wasn't a case of what people think. But this is it. This is why I think it was so powerful as well, because it was a group of people from different walks of life that come together and got it done right. But even in that, I mean, we done a few petitions back then. We'd done quite a bit back then, actually. Same as with C.M.W. We can always go back and do these things, these people. We can always, there's certain remedies in that lot and certain actions we do need to take. It's all done by due process, though, and we are going to be doing these again. It's just where we took a year and a half out with C.M.W. Is because we had basically a lot of groups and a lot of so-called experts come out of the woodwork and started doing lives and everything about common law. And we found ourselves almost like in a very dark room off of another room, trying to shout to everyone saying, excuse me, we've got proof that this is how you do it. That's not how you do it. But unfortunately, he who is on Facebook Live the most usually gets the most following and the most attendance, unfortunately. And if you're doing the research and you're doing the footwork to actually get these things right, you cannot be on Facebook every day preaching to the masses, unfortunately. But we took a step back because we thought, okay, we can't fight against all these people. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into, because we went in a bit more into the courts. We put more attention on the courts and more on the research. And in the time that we left, everyone just disappeared. Nobody was really talking about common law and constitution much anymore. It all just disappeared. It was like no one was doing anything. So then me and Gary got messaged by a lot of people, and we said, all right, then we'll come back to the table and we'll try again. We'll see if we can highlight a few things. And since we come back, Mark Sexton, the whole lot are all now doing sittings, arrest, things like that. It's ridiculous. It's and it's not just us. It's not just C.M.W. There's a couple of groups out there. Anytime they actually push forward with something decent they're doing, you'll get about 10 to 15 groups will try and beat them to the punch and try and do it or take it off them. I mean, for instance, when we went to Scotland Yard and petitioned the police, we didn't actually put the petition in. But we was going to do it where 30 days later we was going to hold another event to try and sort of push them to do something about it. So we set up a little group. There was a couple of members in that group. I won't name any names, but a couple of people on this panel do know a couple of people in there. And these group actually come into the group because they was trying to destroy what we was doing, to the point where we are the only ones that could hold the event to actually push the police. But for some reason, members of this group that was put in there thought that they could go off and hold an event over the other side of London and use what we did. Doesn't work like that. And this is the problem. It's like you've got a lot of people that will either, rather than back saying, they'll go and start their own version of it, or they'll run off doing stuff like that. We need this to stop. What we need is people to sort of all back, like Gary says, all read from the same book, because then it wouldn't be so hard. You could run off and do all your bits and stuff like that, and you wouldn't actually be screwing the rest of us over. It's like for instance, you cannot have a foreign national come to England and wage war, because it is basically waging war on the crown and her servants. Not in its literal terms. So any of you army people who think it doesn't breach your oath in any way, shape or form. Actually, your oath comes from Article 61. Therefore, 61 backs up your duty to actually free the Queen, because she's been imprisoned by her advisors. But you can't have a foreign national, i.e. a Canadian, come to this country and then lead the charge. It's called an act of war and treason. But then again, what would I know?
Yeah, it's shocking, and people, when we first started, you know yourself now, we used to get laughed at, ridiculed, everything on lives. But we stayed at it and we said, no, we ain't being pushed out, because we're telling the truth. And we stuck at it. We've never, unlike others, we've never wavered from what we're doing. It's always been the Constitution's the solution, Article 61 all the way. And that's what we've done for 8 years. We haven't never wavered or tried to do anything else other than use the Constitution and Article 61 to show people how to get things done. That's all we've ever done.
We've never once tried coming up with a gimmick or some sort of loophole or something that can sort of, or create something out of nothing, because of our belief of saying, to think, right, well, we could just go around due process and do this. No, we've always, and I think that's another reason why people think we're maybe a bit boring, because it's like with Article 61, yeah, it's going to take you a couple of months until you're in Article 61. That's the boring bit. But after that, then you can join in actions, you can take on actions yourself and do stuff like that. But you've got to do due process. And unfortunately, what people need to realise is due process has to be, all the I's have to be dotted and all the T's have to be crossed. There is no going around that. Due process is there to be followed. We cannot argue that the courts are not following due process if we're not going to do it ourselves.
So basically, it's no good filling your 61 form in and then not sending your affidavit of truth and you right to claim a right. Because if you don't do all three, then you're not in lawful rebellion. It's that simple.
What you're saying there, what you're saying there, bang on, Nath. I mean, for some people, it's just a little bit too hard, having to learn a bit of stuff or whatever. They would much rather pay some chancer that's read a few bits or nicks a few bits here and there. The thing is, they always promise, big plans of, oh, we're going to storm Parliament. Okay, let's have a look what you get. What you're going to base that on? The paperwork, this scrapbook of bullshit. You trace it back. You look at what happened in court. Okay, you got laughed out of court. You didn't even get to court. They told you had no evidence, and but everybody carried on the lie right up to the day. Do you know what I mean? The thing is, people want action. So when some idiot, some chancellor promises it, they don't. There's not enough people questioning anything, and the ones that do, it's just, oh, you're a pessimist. Anything's worth a go. It's like, no, not if it's based on bullshit. It's really not worth a go. What you will be is domestic terrorist. You need to listen. Yeah, it might be a bit boring. Yeah, it might be a bit hard. You might have to actually learn some shit to represent yourself. But when you do that and you do it right, it works. To me, that needs to be enforced. But
I mean, you look at the last time.
You are bang on there, Rick.
People
you look at the last time as well, Rick. You look at the last time, Rick, when with the King's flag bullshit and that, when they was going, we're going to get your children back, and who had to pick up all the pieces of that? We did, because everybody was devastated.
And still are, actually. We are still, and this is the thing, not just dissent and the King's flag, we are still to this day dealing with the fallout of some of what they've done.
Yeah. Look at all the big names that was around that and supporting it, openly supporting it. Has any of them, besides Simon Bean, come forward and done a video and said, right, okay, this we're supporting was nonsense, it was a scam, it was a treasonous plot. If anything, it was the enemy using us.
Simon Bean is
Simon
the only one
Bean.
that's actually had backbone to
That's
actually come
it.
forward, and this is what we need. We need more people like Simon Bean. And if you listen, Simon, please get in touch again, because I'm not sure if I've got the right number. Please, we need more people like Simon Bean who are going to tell the truth, who are going to go, right, do you know what? Yeah, we made a mistake because we're only human, and we'll learn this. But now I'm going to let you know that was a mistake. Don't do it. It's not worth it. But we haven't got people to do that. It's like me and Gary. You know this, Rick. When me and Gary, because we've been researching many years, sometimes we will miss the point of something, or we'll get something slightly wrong, and then we'll go, right, we're doing this, we did this, it didn't work, but we now know why it's this and this, so we're going to address this, and then we'll pass it on. I mean, you tell people, you're honest. It's like, well, this was a mistake, that didn't quite work, and things like that, because you'll never know if we all input the right stuff. It'll all come into it. It's like with Simon Bean, he let people know that they went down the wrong road. So then people aren't going to follow down that road. We need more named patriots to do this.
I mean, you look at what's happening now again, Rick, and you, now, if you both was on it the first time. You look what's happening again now with Andy again, with all these £111.11 for some reason for an hour for a consultation.
Yeah, so basically for an hour you're going to pay £111.11p to sit there for untrained. They're trying to make out that they're a law group or something like that. None of them are trained. I think Gisling may have attempted to start a legal degree but never even got anywhere near finishing it. I think may have part one. I'm not even sure she's got that. But these people are masquerading as legal professionals, which is a crime in itself. They are telling you they can get your kids back, but the only case they actually have to prove that they've done anything is Gisling. Rather than going for custody or for her kids, she went for damages against her husband. And because her husband didn't answer to it, the judge, as he states in his own notes, had no choice but to rule with her. So she went for money. So you're going to pay £111 to speak to people that are not versed in family law. And I can assure you, I've been doing family law for quite a number of years. It's not as easy as a lot of people think. But they aren't trained in family law. They've never got anyone's kids back for them. In fact, actually the opposite. They've probably got people with a lot worse. And some of the stories me later is. So you're going to pay £111 for them to hear your story. And they are saying no win, no fee. So there shouldn't be any fee until they win anyway. But all they're going to do, they're not going to get your kids back. They're going to get you damages. And then they're going to claim about 60% of that money for damages. You're going to land up with no kids and no money. This is the kind of scam still going on to this day. And people are that desperate that they will believe these people. Start asking for credentials, people.
As always, these people can come forward and we'll discuss it and we'll go over the facts and evidence and people can make up their own minds. But
please, not believe anything we've said to... Sorry, go on.
The thing is with scammers, they're only looking for a couple of % of people. Do you know what I mean? They're not really too bothered. They're not looking for all of them. They're not bothered. If they can get 5%, they'll be happy with that.
Well, if you think about it, if they're asking £100 per person, if you get 10,000 people pay £100, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
that's it. I mean, look at the Robert. Was it Robert Tilbrook? I always get mixed up with his name.
Oh, yeah, Robin Tilbrook.
145 grand.
Solicitor who knew nothing of the Constitution, yet claimed he did. But yet, when I asked him a few constitutional points, he blocked me and got Graham Moore, another shill. Graham Moore doesn't know anything. He's never achieved anything apart from a 7-year sentence for fraud. Is another one. And then Graham Moore and Robin Tilbrook got everybody to block me, so I couldn't highlight that they were actually committing crimes against you lot. They were committing fraud and didn't know what they was talking about. I wouldn't even mind, but I think Tilbrook even used a couple of things that I said to him in their argument. They didn't know. They don't know. I mean, if Graham Moore was so knowledgeable and he knew about the Constitution and common law, he'd know that there is no such thing as a constitutional political party. The Constitution binds our political parties. It binds Parliament. There is no constitutional party you can actually have because it's a conflict of interest. Never should a twain meet.
Yeah. Well, if you remember,
you think that being a constitutional, you think being a self-confessed constitutional genius that he would know this.
The same Robin Tilbrook who was having all your money off you to go against the Constitution, to go against these unlawful MPs, and that was also using that money to go as an MEP in the very thing he was claiming that was a scam.
Exactly. Yes, Robin
Yeah.
Tilbrook was. It's actually Robin Tilbrook at the same time as crowdfunding for what he classed as a constitutional case. He never actually put a constitutional case in at all. That's why it was doomed to fail from the beginning. But he was
So
actually
the two
claiming money
things
to do a
contradict
case.
each other, don't they? Nullify
Exactly. He
each
was
other,
claiming
don't they?
money. Yeah, he was crowdfunding money to basically
Yeah.
back up our leaving the EU, but at the same time, he was. I'm not going to say he was using that money, but at the same time, he was actually going. And you do need money to do it. He was going for as an EU candidate, so he wanted to be part of the EU Parliament, as well as telling us he wants to fight to get out of the EU.
Yeah.
It's an oxymoron. It's a contradiction in terms. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. A lot of people was collecting for him for that. Graham Moore was, Tony Bugle was. It was Tony Bugle that I spoke to, and she said, "No, he's a good guy. This, that, and the other. Speak to him, or have one of the people from C.M.W speak to him." And then when you did, it was kind of all like run out the back door. Would avoid you like the
Yeah.
I
plague, but
mean,
that,
did
I'm not
anybody
even
ever find
joking.
out what
Him
happened
and
to the
him
money
and
now?
Graham Moore told everybody. Graham Moore live on one of his shows told everyone to block me and said because I was attacking
yeah,
Robert Tilbrook because basically Robert Tilbrook was saying a few things and I said categorically you're wrong. Here's the proof, and
yeah,
I actually did it. I may
yeah,
still have the messages somewhere, but all I ever did was to
yeah,
Robert Tilbrook was pull him up on his constitutional case and asking why there is no constitutional elements to his argument. That was it.
yeah,
It's because I knew more about
exactly.
the argument than he did. So basically, I had to be blocked because otherwise, I'm going to stop the funding because I'm going to tell everyone that they're lying and don't want to do it.
Did anybody find out what even happened to the money, by the way? I don't know what happened to me.
No, apparently not.
Around the back of the couch.
I bet everybody wants to buy that couch off him.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody ever asked though, Gary. This is the thing. People just do stuff, collect loads of money, and then disappear. Anne-Marie Waters has just done it. It was all, for Britain, this, that, and the other. She's now sat on 150 grand and just collapsed it all and said, "Yeah, I'm not going to bother."
See, I thought that this is the thing. People really want to look into that. Who's
Shocking,
actually
that is, you
donated
know what I
money?
mean?
Because I swear to God, she's actually made a statement somewhere, and it's on paper that she will never. That movement will never go. I think she's even mentioned that
Yeah.
she'll always be the head of that movement. So, technically speaking, it's like if she hasn't got the intention, she'd have to come up with a very good reason to take people's money and dissolve it. And she hasn't at all. So, well, I'll do what I want. I'm
Well,
just dissolving it now. I mean, not be funny.
to
This should
me,
tell you about politics in itself. I mean, because they're all the same. Most people who want to get into politics, they're in it for the money. They're not in it to change
to
the
me,
system because all of them know they can't.
it seemed pretty. Well, I don't know. It's one of them. I don't believe in coincidences. To me, with the Anne-Marie Waters thing, after I presented the evidence, it all seemed to fall apart at the edges. It seemed to be because nobody come forward and said any of the evidence was wrong or whatever. It seemed to be what was put forward was correct, that there was attachments to hope, not hate, and all that sort of thing. There's issues there when people just go away and disappear. To me, you've already got your answers. You don't need to dig anymore. You don't need to waste any more time in that area. Just it's mad. But this is the thing, because people don't talk about it afterwards. They're all kind of just maybe a bit embarrassed because they was involved or whatever, and supporting things and whatever. Because they're a bit embarrassed, they just don't talk about it and then move on to the next stupid, thing that's not going to work. It's mad. In my opinion, just open, honest discussion. You put as many things on the table as you want, which you think are going to be a solution, and then discuss them all and remove things that are not, and then you're only left with what will work. And if you're all in agreement with what's on the table, then that should be the unity that you need, really, to kind of get a ball rolling as such.
Well, it's the thing. It's like a lot of people are sort of saying about that mad mix conspiracies, Michael Manuel Chevers and things like that, and what they're doing. That lot. As far as I know, there's quite a few people that have contacted them, say contact these people, they can help. But again, it's like we are not solicitors or barristers. We're not going to go and whore ourselves off. I'm sorry, we're not. We have enough to do anyway, and we're still trying to do the right thing. But we are more than happy to work with any group. as Dennis will vouch for, and everybody else will work with any group. As long as you are doing things lawfully, we will work with you. What we can't do is work with you while you're attempting to do something that's unlawful, or that's going to get Article 222 of the Lisbon Treaty enacted in the next 24 hours. I'm sorry, but no.
Yeah, this is it. To me, it doesn't matter where they can get that enacted from. It doesn't matter who it is, what group it is, or if anybody does that, that's playing into their hands. So they don't really care. You got to think they have people that are put in these groups and whatever to kind of cause problems and whatever. They want people to go and storm Parliament based on bogus paperwork, because then they can go, right, we're going to enact this, and then we're going to. That's it. You're all going to. You're all going to feel it.
You'll never get 100 metres within Parliament ever again, because
no
one can be trusted. You know what I mean? It's like this is the thing. I don't think people realise how much damage they can do to the rest of us by trying to do some fallacy or gimmick.
All that it consists of, mate, is people staying silent. If yourself, Gary Clark, Tony Bugle, and myself didn't speak out, who would have, and what would have happened if we didn't? That's that.
Exactly.
All it needs is for us to go, do you know what? We didn't really get much much good stuff come back from it last time. I'm just going to keep quiet this time. Just let whatever happens. All of a sudden we'll find everybody is going to be in a situation. Everybody. So it's one of them. To me, if we're going to move forward, we need to have the numbers. We need to have support, and we need to know that we've got it beforehand.
Exactly. I mean, look at you, Rick. I mean, you've been following us, and we've been alongside each other for many years now, fucking decade or so. Exactly. How many people have you outed with factual proof? You haven't just gone and accused someone of something. You've got the factual proof that you can put out there. How many people have you been wrong? I haven't counted one.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. To me, though, it's one of them.
People will attack you, though, because rather than think, hang on, here's a man that's trying to show me the truth. It's he's just attacking people because he don't. No, there's no egos. It's a case of the ego lies with the person you're following and yourself, because you don't want to be wrong. We are all wrong multiple times in our lives. Start understanding that. Start getting used to it. And I mean, because it's not so much about being wrong; it's what you do afterwards. So everybody is entitled to do things wrong. Everybody's entitled to make mistakes. What you're not entitled to do is make that same mistake time and time again, because that's the definition of insanity. And you are definitely not allowed, after you've made that mistake and you know it's a mistake, to pull other people into that mistake. You just can't.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, to me, it's one of them. Because we used to do open discussions over many topics and whatever, and the amount of time that we've been in the movement and the amount of things that we've been attached to and whatever, you gain a lot of support and a lot of knowledge around you. You don't necessarily need to know that much yourself, because you only have to ask a question and you'll have 30 people go, right, okay, bam, 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 here's some evidence. So for me, it's never really been hard. It's not always like, it's the same with yourselves. You might not have found what it is that people have got an issue, but once you've had 30 people come to you and say, there's an issue with this, look, here's the evidence that I've got, bam, 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 then all of a sudden you can consolidate all that. And then when you confront them with it, usually they'll do exactly what scammers do, and they'll run the opposite direction. That's been the case most times. Yeah, this is it. I mean, the ones that have, it's not ended well for them, has it? Let's be fair.
No. So they just move on to a different group of people.
Yeah, this is it. I mean, they'll just, like Andy Devine, he just seems to move sideways and do something else and scam somebody else. So it don't matter if he's involving children. It don't matter. You don't give. Some people have got no morals. Some people will just continue on.
Well, the two people leading that so-called law group aren't trained in law in any way, shape or form. I mean, it weren't that long ago Devine was using Win Miller's stuff that was proven to get people in trouble, not the thingy. But the King's flag scam, they say a flag gives them the rights to the whole world and all that lot, and that King John is the king of the world and all that lot. People never questioned it properly. But these people are still going. The law group they've set up to try and help women get their children back, some of the most vulnerable people in our society who are not going to think, not going to ask questions because they're just desperate to get their kids back. If you actually have a look into these two people, both of these people live in Greece. They don't live here. So when it all said and done, it comes down to it. Unless you know how to get a European arrest warrant sorted or an extradition order or something like that, you're not going to be able to prosecute these people unless you can make an international crime.
There's only your door getting a knock, isn't there?
Yeah.
That's it.
And this is where it takes many people coming together with the evidence.
This is why I say an open pool of information kind of protects everybody around that, because you're learning the truth, the facts, and you've got the evidence. Scammers can't really come near that. Do you know what I mean? It won't wash. Whatever they're selling won't work.
Well, this is why it's like me and Gary spoke to you about you starting up Rude Awakening again, because if you've got our platform, say British Resistance does it as well, and Rude Awakening, if we all start getting these people to come on and discuss this, we will very easily weed out the scammers and the genuine people from each other.
Yeah, I mean, we should definitely give Andy Devine a chance to, I don't know, try and sell us his story or something. I suppose.
I sent him I sent him a GIF, and he hasn't replied. So what can I do?
I might give him a ring.
Yeah, so put it up again, is it, Nathan?
It was, yes.
I think the last time we
use humour with a lot of things as well. And I'm not going to apologise for that. I like to use humour because it's a very serious thing, and if you can add a bit of humour, it stops you getting depressed.
Yeah. I mean, the problem is there's always going to be a constant flow of fresh, like, victims. That's all they are to people like him. They're just victims.
Unfortunately, the more people that wake up to this movement, the more are grabbed by it. And this is the thing, we had it a couple of years ago when we had like nurses and that coming onto the scene and sort of making out that they started the movement. I can assure you, everyone, the Truther movement started many, many years before most of these people even knew there was one. That's why there's actually two Truther movements. There's the original one that me, Rick and Gary, a number of people actually belong to. And then there's the other one, which you'll find mostly Facebook patriots on. There is a difference, a massive difference. It's in the way we act, what we do, the way we go.
One's the truth when you suits me, isn't it?
Yeah, basically, yeah. A lot of the Facebook patriots are truth when it suits, and then run off when it doesn't. A lot of the new people who are getting into the movement and understand and start getting to this are often swept up by these people. This is why we always say, it's like, just don't take our word for it. Question us. Question other people. If they can't answer and we can, then that should tell you something. If you can see the very sources that we're giving you as factual evidence in writing, yet these people are saying something different, question them.
To me, if I'm trying to push something, it's one of them. If I'm trying to push something now and I'm asking for people's support, you know, possibly even money, like people do or whatever, you know, you should be able to ask me a million questions and I should be able to give you a million answers straight away. I shouldn't have to tell you, oh, go and watch 4 videos or some other bullshit to buy you some more time. You should just be able to give me the answers straight away. If what you're pushing's bang on, you should have the answers straight away to any questions. To me, every time you answer a question and it's correct, you're validating yourself to everybody. You're transparent.
I mean, I would like to see more groups.
To me, anybody who's coming into a new movement like this, and people are asking for money, should be a big red flag, because your freedom shouldn't cost you any money other than your time.
The problem is there's too many patriots that are prepared to give, providing the money is spent on the cause. Yeah, people don't mind that, but when you've got certain patriots that are going out there and, you know, they're spending it on holidays and designer clothes and things like that, that's a big no-no.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be anything like that, Dennis, because at the end of the day, me and Nathan have been doing this for a long time. We always said from day one, we will never charge anybody for our services. Everything we do is for free. We'll learn you knowledge for free. All we ask you to do is actually give us some time, back us, use that knowledge to help us to wake others. That's all we want to do, and get this country back. And if everybody had the same, outlook, this country would already be back. But unfortunately, you've got people who are in it and see dollar signs, and they don't want this country back, because if they get the country back, their little dollar sign PayPal patriots gone, finished.
Well, this is the thing. It's like we've talked about this as well, Des, before, about sort of like PayPal patriots and stuff like that. I mean, me personally, it's like Rich just said about legitimacy of a movement or a group or certain things like that. It's like, now, I think the hot seat was made famous for Gary, because Gary a few years ago decided that one day he was just going to put me in the seat and just go, 5 questions. And he did, and I answered them all. Gary answered a few things out, but there's not many people out there that can. It's like Rick says, if he's going to push something, then you should be able to ask questions and answer it. Now, I don't see many groups that will do a hot seat or have a show like this where people can just come on and it's like there's no remit. Ask whatever questions you want. Most people won't. If you come on, it'll be like, well, we're only talking about this subject, and we're only going to talk about this, and then they'll actually dictate what's going to happen, whereas we don't. If people want to ask questions in the chat, we don't always manage to keep an eye on the chat, but if people ask questions in the chat, we'll address it as soon as we can. If people like yourself, Dennis, if you want to ask a question, we'll address it as you can. We do it on the spot. We don't sort of go, right, well, put a pin in that. I'll get back to you in 3 weeks' time.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. A lot more people need to put their money where their mouth is. I would like to see a lot more people as well, is when they organise these things for people to go and arrest people, don't sit there and say, well, I'm going to organise a group of people to come down and do it for us, and just sit here and watch. Do it yourself. Learn how to do it and do it yourself. A lot of it is not that hard. A lot of it is down to the teaching. The problem is the teaching. If the teaching is wrong, then the understanding will never be correct. Ever.
Yeah. Right. Well, like, I'm not an expert on common law, but what you have taught me has been invaluable. You know what I mean?
Well, thank you. I'm glad we can help. This is what we're here for.
Yeah, it has been invaluable, not only to me, but to other members of the group.
Good, glad it helped. Because it should do. Our rights and our common law rights, our constitutional rights should help everyone.
Yeah.
People just got to come forward, learn it, and use it. That's all it is.
Well, we're going to do our best. We're going to do our best to get as many people on board as possible.
Yeah, you're doing amazing.
Yeah, and it's just crazy, mate. It's just crazy the way things are going for us at the moment.
Yeah.
No,
and you'll find, Dennis, you will find that once you get people as well, you'll feel better. You'll feel even better, because you are now getting people who want to learn and understand, and that's how a movement should be. And then the more people that join, the more of a feel-good feeling it is, and you think, you know what, we can do this. But
we signed up our first non-group member the other day, and we're hoping that you and Gary will come down. Well, you and Nathan will come down and have a chat with a group down here.
Yeah, we'll definitely come down and just sort that with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely come and sort that with you. And that's how it should be. And you know, everybody being here for the same reason. And then if you get your country back, it's great, because then you shouldn't need PayPal anyway, or all these things once you got your country back, because you should be free to do what you want to do again and earn the money you want to earn, instead of the government saying, no, you're all unfair, though, you're all doing this, you're all locked down, you're all doing, you know what I'm saying? You won't have none of that, because hopefully, if everybody does the right thing, we'll all be back to normal and earn what we want to earn and work as many hours as you want.
This is exactly it. It's like Dennis has picked up on mentioned saying earlier that he's quite relevant to this whole thing of not needing money. It's about working as a community. It's like Dennis said earlier, if me and Gary can just get to London, they can pick us up. And this is what we should be doing. We should be creating a network of where people help people. You don't need to give me money to travel somewhere if there's people willing to sort of put their time and effort about and a bit of petrol in the car to come pick me up and take me to here. Then there's no money changing hands. It's just good people doing good deeds, and that.
Yeah, you know, like we could even put you up down here. You know what I mean? It's just not a problem at all. If you and Gary wanted to stay for a day or two or whatever, you know, however long you wanted to stay.
Exactly. We don't need to crowdfund for a hotel or anything like that, because if we all make sacrifices, we all help each other, then we actually start creating a community and we're all helping each other. Things will get done. So there's no need for money. all you need is goodwill and good people.
Yeah. Well,
I'd never
that's what
go for
I'm around now. That's
anyway.
what I feel I'm around. Yeah, that's what I actually feel I'm around now is good people. Yeah, and people that ain't trying to take us for, you know, whatever they can get out of us.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, yeah. That's it.
But you imagine you times that by everybody doing this, and how wonderful would it be if everybody was on the same page?
It'd be brilliant, you know what I mean? It'd just be brilliant. It's instead of everybody being at different corners, they should all be meeting in the middle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've always said that.
Relevant, and we've all got relevant points and attributes to bring to this battle. We're all relevant. We just got to get together and work out where certain bits can be used and how. That's all it is.
Yeah,
I've always said that. You know what I mean? Like with GoFundMe's and all this kind of stuff, all the fun, this, that, and the other. If you couldn't do that side of things, I think you would see a very different picture. Do you know what I mean? Of the people that would stick around.
Yeah.
If they're not making any money.
Well,
it'd be very different.
It's been going for nearly 3 years. Yeah, which is quite long for a Facebook group. Yeah, and you know, this is the first. We feel ready now. Yeah, that we're in a position now to say, right, you know what I mean? Yeah, let's stand up a bit more. Let's get out there a bit more.
There is a lot of good people out there.
And, you know, I believe, like, yeah, you can ask any member of our group. We've never asked them for a penny.
No.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, never. Yeah, we've never done that.
Yeah, this is it. I mean, to me, it's just pulling all the groups of good people together, and if you can keep the wrong ones out, you know, to me, if you're doing what you're doing and you're doing it the right way, and you've got unity, you can't really fail. You know, the law's on your side. The problem that I see it as, people will come like with their own thing. They'll just think, right, I'll learn what bit I need to push what bit I need, and they'll twist it, like, you know, twist it to make it their own, to like rebrand it kind of thing. But the way they've twisted it, they've done it wrong, and that in itself, it's set to fail straight away from day dot, and they don't realize 100%. By doing that, you know, they're not helping anybody. You know, they might be helping themselves for that couple of months that you know, because it's always, oh, we need money to do whatever, and it never gets us anywhere. This is the problem. People are too happy to just go, do you know what? I can't come to a demo or whatever for whatever reasons. I know, I understand that some people can't or whatever, but that's their way out.
The reason a lot of people don't go to demos, it just puts money in the government's coffers.
Yeah,
that is a major factor.
Everybody's got their own reasons why they
like if they had a million, they say they was calling for 1 million person march in London, and all them million people were paying 25 quid each just for a train ticket. That's going in the government coffers. You know, that's not including their food, their drinking in the pubs afterwards, and all of that. You know.
Yeah, that's it.
And most of the time, all that happens is people just go and stand around for a whole day, and then go home.
Yeah.
I haven't got a problem with protests. I haven't got a problem with protests. It's like me, Rick, and Gary used to go to every single protest back in the day, but all of us, I think, come to the conclusion around about the same time. It's like the protests are great, but they're not being followed up on, because you can't just go to a protest.
They're not just being followed up
home.
on. They're not just being followed up on. It's also the press are not reporting on it. It just feels pointless.
Yeah, I can understand that.
To me, there's enough people warning. Everybody's been warning for at least 10 years plus. Everybody's been warning. To me, there's enough people warning. A certain section of us now need to move forward to solutions, lawful solutions. I mean, there's loads of things that we've brought up, which we've already got. I mean, the grooming gangs issue.
We've tried the voting part. You know what I mean? That don't work.
That's it.
Because all the voting's rigged now, as we know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, the only way to go is lawful rebellion.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Actually, the two candidates that are in the forefront for actually getting to be Prime Minister actually went through the World Economic Forum's university. So they are trained by the World Economic Forum, who wants to
Yeah.
take everything away from us. The two main candidates. So if anyone was to actually understand now, politics is not the way to go. It should be now. Now's the
Yeah,
time
it's
when
not.
we withdraw ourselves from the electoral roll, we withdraw our consent, and we actually go forward with our own laws on our own government.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like you say, Dennis, politics is a dead route at the moment. Until we destroy the corruption and we remove the bad parts from the system and get it back to how it is, politics is not an option for us at the moment. It's not.
Yeah,
In fact,
well,
politics is actually what's got us
it's
into
the
this.
corporation. It's the corporation. Yeah, we have to dismantle the corporation. Yeah, before we can dismantle the politicians.
In a way, yeah, because
Yeah, because why the corporation's still there? They've still got all the money. That's still going to buy these politicians and buy the politicians' influence and all of that.
Exactly. This is where the Act of Settlement 1701 comes in, and that's another one me and Gary are going to be touched on the live. But it's the Act of
Can you get
Settlement
rid of-
is where they was given the permission to govern us.
Yeah.
Till you get rid of the elites pumping the money in, it doesn't matter. You could have me and Nathan going in there with all good intentions, example. But the minute you go in there and you go, right, Nathan, well, today we're going to do this, we'll get these power. They're going to come and knock on the side. Now, this is how it works. This is what you're going to be doing. If you ain't going to be doing that, there'll be scandals, this and the other. You ain't going to last 5 minutes. I'll make your mind which way you want to go. You can either be outed within 5 minutes and out of a job, or you can play ball. And that's exactly, you can be going in with the best intentions in the world, but these people will not let you destroy what they've been working on for the last 400, 500 years. No chance.
No, we have to bring the walls of Jericho down before we can get into the city. That's all I'm going to say.
Exactly.
Oh, right. Yeah. I'll get it, mate.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
people who are trying to say, well, we need to fight from inside the system. The system will damage you and damage any fight you can have. It's designed that way. So if we start tearing the walls down and then slowly moving into the city, we're going to be able to surround it and destroy it. It's art of war. It's a basic concept.
Yeah.
You're never going to destroy these by trying to put the politician way. We've said this many times, Nathan. Since 2016, we've been telling them.
Yeah.
When they screwed us with Brexit, we told them then politics 100% is not the way to go. All that's going to happen when you keep voting, it's just an illusion.
Yeah, and you're still giving them your consent.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right.
And you're consenting before they even do anything. So you're blindly consenting to what they do. So it's ridiculous. Yeah. Well, I am going to wrap this up a minute, people, because it's coming up to the 3 hour mark now. I'm going to usually do an hour and a half. But we're going to have everybody back on again. So thank you for everyone to come on. What I shall do, everyone who's listening, everyone wants to know is, because the British Resistance Group have got their own YouTube as well. So I'm going to grab all the links I need off Dennis and all the other links, and I shall post them in the comments underneath here.
Our YouTube channel's not up and running yet. It's going to be about another week before we're ready to go.
Right. Well, as soon as that's ready, give it to me, and I'll add it to this live.
Okay, no problem, Nathan.
And then if we can all start, please, all start publicising all the decent groups and getting unity between these groups and publicising the fact that we are working together, we are moving forward together, then it's going to go a long way. So share. We should be sharing Article 61. We should be sharing these solutions and the right way to go every single day of our lives. We should be sharing this more than the corona or anything else. Because the only way to stop all that is to actually get the Constitution back and actually get them to uphold our laws. It's the only way we're going to stop it. Everything will fall to pieces that they've built once we take back our foundations.
Right.
You can put the link on the Facebook one, can't you?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I'll get Temi or Tanya to do that. So I'm not sure how to do links and all of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm the same. I'm rubbish with technology.
That's about me. I just know how to get banned a lot.
I'm good at that.
Yeah.
Funny enough, we are all seem to be experts at that in this. That's about the only thing we're experts in.
I got mixed up. Though. I think it was misleading. It did say free speech, but apparently not. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think that's where it gets confusing. They say freedom of speech platform, but then when
that's the name of our YouTube channel. Is Free Speech Resistance.
Right, brilliant.
Yeah, so you know we've already had a strike and we ain't even up and running yet.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Oh.
Just always have one ahead, so have two, and then have your
Yeah.
other link for people to
See,
join.
Dennis, Rick is the man to really talk to here about things, because Rick has had so many channels taken and always stayed constantly on because he has a way of doing it. So he's a very good man to talk to about that.
All right then, Rick.
See,
Well, if
Michael
we
needs
can,
to contact him.
yeah, if we can contact each other or something on Telegram and
Cool.
yeah,
And then all platforms can be
sound
working
mate.
together, working in tandem, and then we'll start slowly get over this media slump that everyone's facing. Because if there's multiple of us pushing the same thing, it's going to be very hard work for them to stop it.
This is it. It's
yeah,
just trying to
exactly.
put all the decent groups together, trying to pull the decent numbers together, and all do the same thing at the same time. That's
Let's
where you
start
get
working towards a good vibe feeling instead of all the negativity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, mate. Exactly.
Yeah.
This is it.
We are positive people doing positive things. That's all we need to focus on.
Yeah.
Indeed.
To me, as
Right,
long as you always do a regular thing where it's open, honest discussion about things, it's, you know, people can see everything. It's transparent. People understand as we go, and then to me, you can't really go
So does
wrong
this
doing
mean
that.
does this mean we're getting Rude Awakening back? I know I keep bugging you about it.
Rude Awakening,
can
Rick.
do.
Was that on Telegram? Rude Awakening.
Possibly. It's on YouTube at the moment. Yeah.
Oh right,
It
I'll
comes and
subscribe.
goes on YouTube, but right, yeah. It's on the comment section tonight. It's on the comment section, but
All right, then,
I'll put
brilliant.
them. All right, nice one. Good to speak to you, Dennis.
Yeah, I'll catch you all later. Good night, Nate. Good night, Gary. Good night, Timmy.
Yeah,
Let's sort this regular. Get more people on. Let's do this. We can do this.
Right.
All right, yeah.
Stay on for the sign out, Gary.
Yeah, well.
I might have another group to join us. Yeah.
No,
I'm going to speak to the guy on Thursday.
Yeah. The more the merrier.
Let them come on.
All right,
ask
no
questions,
problem.
whatever. More than welcome.
Stay safe,
okay,
mate.
Right.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Night,
Good
Dennis.
night, everyone.
Cheers,
Good night.
Tanya. Bye. Timmy, bye.
2 seconds.
Right
Just
then.
while I start shutting things down, people. There you go. Right. You staying in, Den, or are you going now?
What's up, mate?
We're just signing off now. Do you want to say goodbye?
No, it's been good. A productive chat tonight or whatever. Anything more like this forward is a good thing. So yeah, it's been good.
Start. Very good start. All right, Mike.
Been good.
I'll take you
All
out
right.
now. Right, cheers.
Take care, people.
See you later.
Stay safe.
See you, mate. Bye.
Right, there you go, people. It's been another instalment for myself, Nathan Kirkton, and him, Mr. Gary Clark. Well, sorry, not Mr. Gary Clark from C.M.W. As Gary said, we were doing this more regularly. Any groups, any leaders, any representatives that want to come forward and come on the discussion panel, put your side across, put your thoughts, your feelings, or any ideas you have, please just get in touch. More than happy to have you on. Right, but for now, it's good night from me. And remember, if you're not compelling, you're not rebelling.
No, that's correct. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you've had a good night. Have a good week. Hope the weather's picks up again, because it's been shit today where I am. It's absolutely pissed it down all day, but there you go. So much for the heat wave, eh? It's going to kill everybody. Yeah.
Right. So I might. After that, right. Thank you very much, and good evening, everyone. I'll speak soon.
Bye bye.